Quiet night at the office. No phone calls, no messages. Nothing but junk mail and overdue bills to keep me company. Seems nobody wants to hire a real private dick anymore. A professional like me. A guy who does the detective work nobody else wants to do. A guy who wears hats and walks around in a black and white world. I began contemplating a more profitable line of work, like politics.
We are the show you want to know. It's time to talk to you.
All right, folks. Good morning and welcome to the Sunday morning edition here of the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830 WCRN. I'm Joe Mangiacotti, and you can join the conversation over the next hour at 508-871-7000. That's 508-871-7000. And don't forget our text line is up and running at 617-297. I said hour. This is Sunday morning, guys. We've got 3 hours from now till noon. My bad there. I was in the Wednesday morning mode. Over the next 3 hours, you can join the conversation at 508-871-7000. And, of course, the text line is up and running at 617-297-8388, 617-297-8388. And you text that like you would anything else. It appears on the screen here in the studio in real time, and we try to work it into the conversation. Don't forget that we do stream 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, like thousands of other radio stations do, to the TuneIn app, so you can take us anywhere. And I love that feature. Tell Alexa to play WCRN, and she'll do that, no questions asked. Hey, guys, we're also streaming. So as I broadcast from the Cameo studios, Cameo Cam is on. So if you want to go to the station's Facebook page or my Facebook page, X account, LinkedIn account, Twitch TV, Rumble, they're all there. So many ways to watch and many ways to listen. Russ is behind the glass, flying the board back at HQ. He'll get you set up and into the studio for two-way talking conversation. Good morning, Russ. You look marvelous.
Oh, thank you, Joe. And looking at the screen, you look marvelous, too. You look like you're ready to go to a baseball game.
Yeah, I thought I'd do a little summary look here at the WCR baseball cap and baseball type of shirt here. Just a Sunday morning. A little more casual and relaxed, folks. So there is a lot to talk about. There's so much going on, right? Sunday is open for everybody. I mean, I'll throw stuff out there. It's we've got Flag Day, right? Trump's birthday falls on Flag Day here. We've got the World Cup going on, and I got a lot of people very close to me that are big into the soccer. Because of course, we're dealing with the Iran deal. I'm going to get into that one. California election integrity. It's, of course, Pride Month. It's a lot of big themes here going on, a lot to talk about as America is celebrating. But the real question is whether we're still serious. Flag Day, Trump's 80th birthday, America's 250-year buildup, World Cup on American soil, UFC on White House lawn, and the big claw thing, right? But behind everything, we've got this Iran deal. Iran may be playing for time. I just think that Trump is getting duped here a little bit. Yeah, I know. You know I'm serious if I'm saying, look at Trump says Iran no longer wants nuclear weapon. Bull. I don't believe that for a second. Of course they do. And what's wrong with you for thinking that they don't? Unless he's hopefully just going along with it publicly, and he doesn't believe it for a moment, and I hope he doesn't. And I hope J.D. Vance snaps him out of it. He says they don't want a nuclear weapon. And a deal is supposed to be signed today. All right. And this reported framework includes keeping the Strait of Hormuz open, a wall to no nuclear weapon. That's just not going to happen. They're not going to all of a sudden be like, nope, yeah, that's okay. We don't want it. Not going to happen, guys. And then eventually we'll talk about Iran's enriched uranium stockpile. But here's the ripper, right? Sanctions, oil relief tied to the Iranian steps. They just want money, or certainly sanctions lifted. In Iran, meanwhile, all this is going on, right? They have publicly been cautious, with officials denying that a final deal is locked while acknowledging a framework may be close. As far as I'm concerned, it's like the alleged ceasefire that never actually existed. So we can drill down in this. The question is not whether Trump can get Iran to sign a piece of paper, electronically or otherwise. The question is whether IRGC, the Supreme Religious Security State, and Iran's proxy network actually have the intention of honoring it once sanctions relief happens and there's oil revenue again. They want time and breathing room. That's what's on the table. See, peace through strength is one thing, but peace through wishful thinking, that's how Washington, and in this case, Trump, gets played. I don't believe for a moment that they have intentions. And I think I've been pretty clear that I'm in that group of people who think, no, this is the opportunity we have now to eliminate the IRGC, to remove them from control. The imams should not be running that country. It's national security to us, as well as Israel and European countries in that entire region. Look at how they acted to their alleged, their supposed allies. They started firing people that nobody saw coming until they did it. And it did unify and solidify some of these countries with the United States to stand against Iran. But this is still the country that attacked America in 1979 and went on to kill thousands of Americans over the next 47 years. So here we go again. It's another president, another Iran deal, another promise from Tehran that this time they really mean it. This time they will behave. This time they will stop chasing nuclear weapons. This time they will respect international shipping. This time the regime that built a worldwide terror network is suddenly going to act like Switzerland with turbines. Sorry, I don't buy it. I just don't. And I say that as someone who has supported President Trump's policies, supports peace through strength, supports getting gas prices down, supports protecting American troops, supports avoiding endless wars. But there is a difference between avoiding war and getting played, guys. There is a difference between negotiation and naivete. There is a difference between buying peace and buying time. And that is what I fear is happening. President Trump is saying, hey, there may be an Iran peace framework signed today, on his birthday, no less. The Strait of Hormuz reopens. Shipping lanes calm down. Oil markets breathe. Gas prices hopefully drop. Iran supposedly agrees not to pursue a nuclear weapon. Then we go into some kind of negotiation, some window over dismantling the nuclear program, dealing with enriched uranium, verification, and sanctions relief. That's the big one. Now, on paper, that sounds terrific. But the problem with Iran is never what they put on paper. The problem is what they do while we're reading the paper, right? President Trump says a peace framework with Iran signed today electronically. They're not even going to be in the same room, no photo ops. The deal reportedly reopened the Strait of Hormuz, great, reduced the immediate military pressure, awesome, and put Iran on record saying it will not pursue nuclear weapons. They don't care if they're on record of that or not. Remember, in their world, in their religion, in their beliefs, they're allowed to say whatever gets them to their end goals, period. But here is where the red flag starts waving for me here. The most important piece of paper, or the most important pieces rather, appear to be pushed into the future. Once again, it's not a do it now, deal with it now, solve it now. It's we'll do this and we'll kind of finish it up down the road. Right? The enriched uranium down the road. The dismantling, the inspections, the sanctions relief, the IRGC, the proxy terror network, Hezbollah, Hamas, the militants, the money. In other words, the regime gets time. And time is exactly what Iran always wants. Iran's playbook isn't complicated. It's not complicated at all. Create a crisis, escalate, threaten oil, threaten shipping, activate proxies, make the world nervous, then sit down at the table and demand concessions in exchange for stopping the chaos they created in the first place. That's not diplomacy. It's geopolitical extortion. So President Trump may believe he's doing the art of the deal, but I worry this is starting to look like The Apprentice. Remember the one with the Joan Rivers episode? That one always bothered me. I know this is obscure to you, right? But do you remember that episode? This is years ago. Joan Rivers, she certainly knew how to play the room. And she understood, the performance. She understood Trump. She had the celebrity, the personality, the drama, the timing. And when the other side tried to explain what was really happening behind the scenes, because she was so obnoxious that the episode's designer that they had created, this stuck with me. I know what you're thinking. What the hell, Joe? You remember this? I remember this because it was at that time I'm saying, what the hell's wrong with Trump? And the guy quit. He's like, she's too much. I'm not dealing with her, which meant he quit for all the other contestants who had access to the designer. And when the other side, the other contestants had to be in the boardroom there and explain what was really happening, Trump was already focused on the show and the star power of Joan Rivers and the big win. And he discounted it because they were saying something that wasn't flattering to Joan Rivers. And she ended up winning, by the way, Apprentice that year. And that's what worries me here. Iran may be performing for Trump. The mullahs know what he wants. Of course they know what he wants, right? And they know he wants the headlines. And he wants oil flowing and gas prices dropping. And the clock is ticking for midterms. And there's all kinds of things. And he wants to be perceived as bringing this to it. But he's not. As long as the Islamic Republic is controlling that country, and Iran is what it is now and not what it was pre-1979, we will never be safe. Israel will never be safe. They will never, ever, ever stop. And I know he wants those prices down. And I know he wants calm before the midterms. And then he wants to say, hey, I ended the war. I reopened Hormuz. I stopped Iran from getting the bomb. But see, what does Iran want? Iran wants survival. They want time. They certainly want those sanction reliefs. Iran wants oil revenue. They're starving for the revenue. Iran wants to keep the IRGC intact, and Iran wants to keep its terror network alive. Iran wants to pretend to compromise while preserving the machinery of the regime. That's their MO, guys. Delay, deny, negotiation, cheat, rebuild, repeat. Delay, deny, negotiate, cheat, rebuild, repeat. And that is why the only real solution is regime change, period. Not another memorandum, not another framework, 60-day negotiation window. not another promise from men who have spent 47 years chanting death to America, funding terror, spilling American blood. Let's take some historical context here, right? Just remember who we're dealing with. Iran attacked the United States 47 years ago. They stormed our embassy in Tehran. They took American hostages, 52. They held them for 444 days, and that was not a misunderstanding. That was not a diplomatic disagreement. That was and is an act of war. And since then, the Islamic Republic has spent decades building a global terror infrastructure. They have backed Hezbollah. They have supported Hamas. They have armed the Houthis. They have funded militias. They have supported attacks against Americans. And they've used proxies so they can kill with deniability. They have destabilized the Middle East, threatened Israel, attacked Israel, threatened shipping lanes, used nuclear talks as a shield while the regime buys time. So this is not a normal state acting in good faith, guys. It isn't. This is a revolutionary Islamic regime whose survival depends on conflict, grievance, terror, and hatred of the West. And you don't fix this with a signing ceremony. That's a pipe dream. And there's a real dangerous part of this deal, right? The dangerous part is not the headline. The headline sounds great. Iran agrees not to pursue nuclear weapons. Wonderful. They've said versions of that before. The dangerous part is what happens next. Do sanctions come off before nuclear program is actually dismantled? Does Iran get oil revenue while the IRGC remains in business? Does Iran keep enriched uranium inside the country? Who verifies compliance? Those inspectors have been rejected before. And what happens? I was going to say, what happens if Iran cheats? No. What happens when Iran cheats? Does Israel retain full freedom of action? Or is this somehow looping them in and tying their hands? Are we dealing with the elected face of Iran or the actual power center, the supreme leader in the IRGC? Because the Iranian president can smile, the foreign minister can negotiate, the diplomats can sign documents, but the IRGC runs the revolution. The IRGC runs the terror networks. The IRGC runs the intimidation machine. And unless the IRGC is broken, nothing has truly changed. I get that, and you probably get that. Why does it seem like Trump doesn't? And then, of course, the gas price midterm trap, right? Now, I understand the political temptation. If the Strait Hormuz reopens, oil calms down. If oil calms down, gas prices calm down. If gas prices calm down, voters feel better. If voters feel better, that helps going into the midterms. I get it. But foreign policy cannot be run like a campaign ad. Campaign ads get you elected. It takes real leadership to lead at this point. You cannot mortgage American security for a gallon of gas, guys. You cannot give breathing room to the Iranian regime because you want a short-term market reaction. And you cannot let the mullahs survive today so they can threaten us again tomorrow. That is the mistake Washington has made over and over and over again, and Republicans are not immune from it. Here's a key question, right? Here is the very question every American should be asking. Is this deal designed to end Iran's nuclear threat or simply delay the next crisis until after the political calendar looks better? Think about that, because if the answer is delay, then this is not peace. It's a timeout. And you know who loves those? Iran loves those. So bottom line, I want President Trump to succeed. I want peace. Sure, I want lower gas prices. Trust me, I do. I want American troops absolutely safe, and I want the Strait of Hormuz open. But I do not want another president, even a president I generally support, falling into the Iranian regime's oldest trick. The Islamic Republic cannot be trusted. And I can't say that plainer or often enough. The Islamic Republic cannot be trusted. The IRGC cannot be trusted. The mullahs cannot be trusted. A regime that began its relationship with America by taking our embassy and holding our people hostage for 444 days does not suddenly become a responsible partner because it gets a signed or signs a framework today. The only true solution is regime change, not war for war's sake, not endless occupation, not nation building, but the end of the terror regime that has held the Iranian people hostage and threatened the civilized world for nearly half a century. Anything short of that is, in fact, temporary, and temporary is exactly what Tehran is counting on. Guys, this is common sense conversation for the common sense citizens, and we have to live in liberty. So what say you on this? I don't believe this is it. I think Trump, Mr. President, I respect you. I love your policies 90% of the time. You're being played, Mr. President. 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. That's 508-871-7000. Let's go to the phone lines. Mark's been waiting patiently. Hey, Mark, good morning. What say you?
Yeah, I almost forgot what I was going to talk about.
I know. I was so amazing.
Yeah, you're on a roll. Anyways, Trump ain't the reason why all this mess is going on in the Middle East. He just ain't. He's not. You would never know, like if you turn on the radio or you turn on the TV, it's Trump, 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 Trump. He wasn't the catalyst that started off this latest fracas, which it seems to go on endlessly, generation after generation after generation, the same players, the Israelis and the Arabs. Okay? Let me ask you a question. Do you think, or do you suspect that the Israelis, A, either have a tactical nuclear weapon, or B, they could get their hands on one if they really needed one? Do you believe they do, or do you believe that they don't?
Let me make sure I heard you. Did you say the Israelis or the Iranians?
Israelis.
Of course,
right
the
now,
Israelis.
as we speak.
Israelis have nuclear
You think they have
capability.
tactical nukes?
Yes.
Okay. That's end of story. Okay, as far as this goes. Because if they ever launch a tactical nuclear weapon, I'm talking about Iran, the Israelis would nuke the joint. You know it, and I know it. And it would happen that day, in
Yeah.
a blink of an eye.
Yeah.
And Tehran would look like a glass parking lot.
Yes. It would be a shame because there's incredible historical.
So how is this all on Trump?
Oh, it's
You know
not.
what? If you really look at the facts, it's not. It's just a narrative being pushed by the globalists who control our entire mainstream media, including Hollywood.
Fair enough. Yeah. Look, I think that's always been the issue, Mark, right? Everybody knew that if they ever got, meaning Iran got nuclear ability to launch, and they lied about their rockets ability.
They lie
right?
about everything. It's part of their jihad. It's part of their
100%, Mark. 100%.
If you're a Muslim and you're waving the flag of the jihad, you can do anything to them.
You got it. Thank you, Mark.
Right,
I appreciate it. Yeah, and Mark, he brings up a good point. 100%. I agree with him 100% there, and that's what my whole open monologue was. They lie. Not only they lie, it's their MO. It's their playbook. And they're allowed to by their own religion, by their own setup and doctrine. And no, Trump isn't. This started in 1979 under the Jimmy Carter administration. Again, I don't know why this is forgotten or not understood. This is when that started. Go look at the historical facts of the 60s and 70s in Iran. It was a very westernized culture, and for crying out loud, it was this miniskirt capital of the world at the time. All right, folks, we have to take our first break here, right, halfway through the first hour of the Sunday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830 WCRN. Back on the other side. Stick with us.
There's a threat targeting America, one that's growing fast, but may still be hard to see. Lyme disease. Spread by tiny ticks, often smaller than the head of a pin, this dangerous disease is now more widespread than West Nile, tuberculosis, and HIV/AIDS combined. And if left untreated, it can lead to arthritis, facial paralysis, and even memory and concentration problems, often called brain fog. As the threat of Lyme disease grows to more than 300,000 projected cases each year, it's time for us to target Lyme disease. That means checking for ticks when you've been outside, even in your own backyard. It means seeing a doctor if you experience the symptoms of Lyme disease, which can include joint pain, flu-like symptoms, fever, fatigue, or sometimes a bullseye-shaped rash. Set your sights on stopping Lyme. Learn how you can target Lyme disease at targetlyme.org. Brought to you by the Stephen and Alexandra Cohen Foundation and this station.
Those things we most cherish are all put at risk through the improper disposal of mercury in everyday items. Fluorescent lamps, thermometers, thermostats all contain mercury. Mercury Recovery Program is designed to assist your community in the safe disposal of this heavy metal. For more information about where to dispose of these products, contact your local Board of Health, Department of Public Works, or visit our website at keepmercuryfromrising.org. Working together, we can keep our environment safe.
Attention all contractors. The Massachusetts Mercury Management Act makes it illegal to improperly dispose of old thermostats in the trash. They contain mercury that can be harmful to human health and the environment. Building and HVAC contractors, plumbers, and electricians, please properly dispose of all mercury thermostats. Contact your local health or public works department for information on where to safely dispose of thermostats in your community. Visit online, keepmercuryfromrising.org for details. Brought to you by Win Waste Innovations. Performance for the planet.
All right, folks. Welcome back here. Second half of the first hour on this Sunday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830 WCRN. Reminding you, folks, we do stream it so you can watch it as well as listen. Go to the station's Facebook page, my Facebook page, my X account, Twitch account, LinkedIn profile, or Rumble, TJM Show, or the Joe Mangiacotti Show channel on Rumble. Lots of ways to do it. And always at joemangiashow.com. For this episode, past episodes, you can always check them out there or subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Hey, the text line is up and running and surprisingly quiet. Usually it's popping off in the first half hour or so on the Sunday morning. 617-297-8388. Let's go to the phones. Tom's waiting in Brockton very patiently. Hey, Tom, you getting ready for the big fight tonight on the under the car in the White House lawn, Trump's birthday? What's on your mind this morning?
Well, I don't like that MMA stuff. I really don't like two guys beating the hell out of one another, to be honest with you. I love boxing during the 70s with Muhammad Ali and George Fraser, Joe Frazier and George Foreman and Ken Norton. It seemed a more civilized sport than this stuff. I just can't get into it. I'm glad that Trump is turning 80. Congratulations. I'm a supporter of his since June of 15. I don't know the devil in the details about this thing with Iran, but I trust them as far as I can throw them. I'm
sensing a theme here this morning. None of us trust Iran.
No, and the point is that, you know, with the Islamic religion, it's okay to lie to the enemies of Allah. And, you know, one thing I never knew about the Spanish Inquisitions, other than it being a Monty Python punchline in one of their stupid shows, is part of that was when King Ferdinand drove out the Muslims in 1492, there were Muslims that stayed, but it was at the agreement they would convert to Christianity. And in many cases, they were actually better Christians than the Catholics that were there. The thing is that behind closed doors, they were still practicing their faith. And that was part of the reason why they started to find out, you know, that, well, are you still Muslims? You know, and unfortunately, it was a brutal history of Christianity, you know, that they basically tortured people. And we have the same thing here in Salem, Massachusetts with the Salem witch trial. You know, how much more weight do you put on someone's chest? Or when you throw them in the water, yeah, well, anyway. So
if they drown, they weren't a witch. If they survive, they're a witch, so you burn them. Yeah, it's a win-win.
Yeah, right. So anyway, with regard to that, but we're facing an ideology, and what really drives me up the wall in this country is that you've got people from the progressive point of view that just ignore this ideology. And these are the people that they think that, gee, we can all get along, and everybody's going to be peachy keen, and not all cultures are equal. And we found that out in Belfast, Ireland this past week, when an asylum seeker from, I believe it was
Sudanese.
Sudan.
Yeah, Sudanese.
Okay. Well,
the one that tried to behead the guy in the street?
Yeah, I mean, he stabbed him in the eye. I mean, it's just, you know, it's just,
yeah, but stabbed him in the eye, Tom. But then he was trying with the knife. He was trying to saw his neck off.
I know, and you know, it just, and I listen to the British politicians saying, "Oh, everyone must remain calm." No, you know what? You just crossed a red line with the Irish people, and none of these people in Ireland voted for this. That's the problem. And at least in America, that we can say that Joe Biden made it clear as a candidate that we'll let the caravans come in. That's who we are. Yeah. Well, those idiots that voted for Joe Biden that complain about illegals getting free stuff, well, hey, you voted for it. But the people in Ireland did not vote for this. And that's all part of the European Union.
So, Tom, let me share, because this morning, all right, as getting prepped, having a cup of coffee, I follow a lot of accounts out of Great Britain, and that includes Northern Ireland, of course, and Ireland. But let me tell you about three things I saw in my feed this morning. One is a Muslim immigrant in the UK who was attempting to rape a 14-year-old girl, was chased down and held down by British citizens until the police could come. All the time, him saying and claiming that it's okay, I'm Muslim, my religion allows me to do that because she's an infidel, she's not Muslim. Okay, that's one feed. The other feed is actually out of the Middle East, because it's a Muslim woman who, get this, Tom, she had the audacity to report her rape, which under Sharia law, if the woman is raped, that's considered extramarital affairs. So she was strung up by her hands and beaten. And then the third feed, again, out of Belfast now, is a Northern Ireland citizen videoing the Muslim immigrants that were there, who are basically very quickly fleeing their home and packing the car up, and they want to get the hell out of Belfast because it's dawned on them, if we piss off Irish people in Belfast. They're not Americans, and they're not in London. And they were more fearful of staying in Belfast than not. You see what I'm saying? They realized, these are the people. The Irish have been fighting the English, if we get into the 26 and 6 and all, for generations and generations, and they don't mess around.
800 years.
Yeah,
800
years.
Yeah.
There you go. So they don't mess around either. So it was a woman's account, and she's showing us them getting and packing their car and basically saying, look at this. They want to get the hell out of Dodge before they find out it's too late for them to get out of Dodge. So there's 3 things I saw over social media come across my feed today. Interesting, right?
It's very interesting, and I will tell you something. I'm sure you're familiar with the name of Tommy Robinson.
Mm-hmm.
He has been the one spear point that he clearly is an English nationalist, and there is nothing wrong with that. All right. Nelson Mandela was a South African nationalist communist. He was celebrated over here in the West because he was an indigenous person fighting colonialization. Well, what is happening over in Europe? They are being colonized, and they didn't ask to be colonized, and it's not a military takeover, unlike other Western colonizations. But these people, they are indigenous people. They have their own distinct culture, and they shouldn't feel ashamed about that. And I'm one that I don't suffer from liberal white guilt. And I will tell you that my family's lineage goes back to the 1630s here in Massachusetts. My mother's family goes back to the early 1700s in what is now called West Virginia. And they owned slaves as far as up to, I think, maybe 1842. I didn't ask for that in my family background, but I don't owe anybody an apology for that. And I will let you know that on both sides of the family, in the King Philip War, my ancestor, Robert Fuller, had 2 sons killed in Rehoboth, as well as a wife. And in Hinton, West Virginia, on my grandmother's side of the family from West Virginia, their last name was Graham. You can Google it on the computer. Elizabeth Graham, Hinton, West Virginia. Right. She was kidnapped in an Indian raid by the Shawnee Indians at the age of, I think, 7 or 8, and lived with the Indians for 8 years. And it took $300 and some horse saddles and blankets in what is now called Mayfield, Kentucky, where they essentially ransomed her back. And there was a son that was killed in that Indian raid, and that was also the same year, 100 years later, 1775, essentially right before the American Revolution. And a son was killed, scalped alive, and there was a slave his name was Sharp, that's my mother's maiden name, was killed in that Indian raid as well. And I don't have any animosity towards any Native American people of what happened a couple of 100 years ago. It happened.
Yeah, exactly. It's historical fact. Yeah.
Yeah. And, like I say, what I see the country where it's being divided, it's clearly being divided on the left, that these racial grievances of way back when, and, enough. But I don't, all I can say is that on my Facebook page, I try and educate people with regards to the problem with Islamists. And, it's the old camel's foot in the tent fable.
Yeah.
And there's a reason why we were told that stuff. And there's a reason why countries like Poland and Hungary say, no, we're not taking in these refugees. Those people in Poland and Hungary remember history. The people in France, Britain, Italy don't remember what history is. And especially in Spain. I mean, for crying out loud.
You know, that makes me, it reminds me, Tom, because a friend of mine who lives in the States, he's Egyptian, and he came here several years ago, and he's legally here and all that. And he's made a life. He went to college. He's got a really nice job in the oil industry and all of that. And he responded to some post or whatever regarding Gaza when all that was breaking. And he messaged me. He said, "Are you insane?" And, you know, talking about my support for Israel in this situation. And I had to remind him. I said, maybe you should check in with your brother in meeting Egypt, because everybody talks about Israel. Nobody talks about the other border, the Egyptian border, where the fence is 20 feet taller. And the first thing Egypt did when it popped off in Gaza is sealed it. And if you look at it, all of those countries in that area, none of them have, you know, they just won't accept the Palestinians in. And here's this, and he's a good guy. He's a nice guy. That's this. I'm not attacking him. I like him. He's missing the fact. I'm like, do you understand that this is where your mother's still alive. Your family still resides in Egypt. You go home to Egypt on a regular basis. When the first thing your government did was seal that Gaza Egyptian border more than it already was. In other words, they closed it, and they won't let any of them in.
And there's a reason why.
Exactly.
And I'm certainly sure I'm certainly sure you know the reason, because I think it might have been the 73 war or whatever. They invited all those Palestinian refugees into Egypt, and what did they do?
They weren't very good hostages. Absolutely.
No, they weren't. And it was the same thing in, maybe I'm confusing years, but in the country of Jordan, they tried to overthrow the monarchy in Jordan.
Yeah.
And
I'll leave this with the final thought. Jerry Seinfeld coming out of the Knicks game, right? You got one of these, and I don't know what his thing is, what his platform, but one of those leftists. I don't really know the guy. I only know from comments that other people made. He's a very progressive YouTuber or whatever, and he's running up to Jerry Seinfeld, and he's trying to get Jerry, hey, how about a free Palestine? How about a free Palestine? And Seinfeld ended this kid in 3 words. He just said, "It doesn't exist," and kept walking. He didn't even break his stride. And yeah, right? Beautiful, Jerry. Beautiful. It was fantastic. And if you watch the video, the kid's like to the cameraman, "Did you get that clip? Did you get that clip?" And then he posts how irrelevant Jerry Seinfeld is in, but it didn't stop your butt from chasing him down to try to get a comment from him. But hey, Tom, thank you for the call. I got to move on. I got other calls. Appreciate it. Thanks.
Bye now. Yep.
Take care. All right, folks, 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. That's 508-871-7000. That's how you get into the studio for two-way talk and conversation. And don't forget the text line is operating at 617-297-8388, 617-297-8388. You might have noticed Jerry Doherty didn't join me at 9:30. I meant to say that at the top of the show. Jerry's out of town today. He'll be back next Saturday, 9:30, as he always is. But have a fantastic, it's summer months and all that. Let's go back to the phones. Matt, down in Philly. Hey, Matt. Good morning. What say you?
Good morning, Joe. It's been a couple months. I'm glad I'm back on the show. I got a few things to discuss with you, if you don't mind.
Let's go.
Okay. Here in Philadelphia, as you're probably aware of, today starts the World Cup. It's a very big event for the city. The city has been looking forward to it. Obviously, it generates a lot of revenue for the city. What really, it concerns me. Last night, we have people from all around the world visiting for the start of today. We had 3 police officers shot last night, and we had 2 other separate shootings where 3 or 4 people were shot. And I think to myself, Joe, if you're coming to Philly for the first time, from anywhere, not just around the world, from around the country, what are your first impressions of this? If you just happen to turn on the local news and see that this violence is pretty much widespread, and not just against civilians, against police officers. It's just a shame. I know it's a great event, and I don't want to pour cold water on it, but it also reflects what's happening in our country, particularly in Democrat-run cities.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to get into this whole New York City after the Knicks, right, and the bus on fire and everything going there, and I have a little bit of a monologue on that. I never understood this, Matt. Your team wins. Look at I was here in 2014, right? And I'm a Boston born and raised guy, and since first World Series since 1918, Curse of the Bambino and all. Yeah, we went a little nuts. I don't think we had fires. Maybe I don't remember it, but I never understood that your team wins, you're so excited, so you're going to loot and burn things and smash police cars. I don't get it. What's the thought process, man?
Yeah, it's crazy. I saw the bus burning in New York City early this morning, and other things. I'm old school. I remember back in 1975 when the Philadelphia Flyers won the Stanley Cup. We didn't try to burn the city down. We had a lot of fun. We may have made a lot of noise after they won, but this going into the violence, it is very concerning. And and I don't necessarily think, Joe, this is an exclusively American thing. If you look over in some Western European capitals and other, they go wild also.
How many soccer stadium riots people have actually been killed in soccer stadiums throughout Europe, right? Because I mean, look, I'm engaged to a Guatemalan, and they take their soccer. I mean, I know more about soccer now than I have my whole life in the last few years. I like Real Madrid, right? That's my favorite team. I get it. It's a fun game to watch, but boy, you get to some of these European countries, and Matt, they go nuts, and people have been trampled, right, in the crowd. People have fallen or pushed off of the upper stadium. There's a body count in soccer stadiums in Europe, so it's not an American thing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. Now, Joe, if you don't mind, I was listening to your previous conversation with the gentleman, and I'm Irish-born. I have a lot of thoughts about what's occurring in Northern Ireland and certainly in the Republic, and I'm deeply immersed in the subject. And obviously, I was very concerned when the Sudanese national tried to behead this man from Belfast, who apparently now has lost sight in both of his eyes. And what was really interesting, okay, but problematic is the British press is pinning this on the Irish government because this Sudan individual came through Dublin and then made his way up to Belfast. So the British press says, oh, no, this is mainly an Irish problem. Where you and I know, or anybody that's examining what's been happening in Western Europe over the last few years, no, it's a lot of countries' problems. They're letting some of the people in, and not all of them, but you have a flood of these migrants coming in that have, they're not going to try to assimilate the community or anything like that. They're going to be doing things like they did in Belfast, which when you watch the video, Joe, you think to yourself, this is barbaric. Why is this happening in Ireland?
And why didn't more people intervene sooner? Right? I mean, they eventually did. Some brutish guy finally got in there. But I'm also watching the video of the woman who's holding the camera with pretty good camera technique, and you hear her saying, "Hey, get off him, mate," and all this kind of stuff. And I'm thinking, will somebody please intervene? Somebody's got to have a baseball bat, a cricket. I mean, drive your car into it. So,
yes.
Something.
Yes,
will somebody please do something? And
I agree with you.
It was nuts to watch this in real time. And guys, you can find the video. Most sites have blurred some of it or stop it, but it's out there. But if you go searching for it, remember, like everything else, you can't unsee something once you see it.
I agree with you. And listen, I would never be the one to advocate any type of violence, but we're looking at situations, not just in Ireland, but the UK with the video that came out with the Henry Nowak murder, which you have the UK police essentially saying, "You're okay, mate," and he bleeds out, and you've had subsequent protests.
After they cuff him, drag him across the gravel, and the police officer says, "Yeah, I don't think so, mate."
I know.
I don't think so. All because the Sikh when they show up, the Sikh says, "Oh, he attacked me racially," and that's all that they had to hear, and it meant that that British citizen was the evildoer now.
Yes.
Period.
Now, the thing along this story, Joe, is that a lot of what the UK police adopted from in their sensitivity, their racial sensitivity training, was a direct result of the George Floyd incident. And then, of course, they instituted all these, I guess you would call them reforms, or however you want to characterize it, for the UK police. The problem is, Joe, if you're a white individual in the UK, you're like 2 or 3 rings down the ladder. Like you mentioned a few minutes ago, that the Sikh, he was bleeds first, and this poor white kid, 18 years old, bleeds out. It's of course it's going to enrage the people.
Yeah.
And why does it take incidents like this for people to stand up and say, "Hey, maybe we should be doing something about this migration issue"?
Yeah, and some are across, and I've talked about this, Matt. I know you can't always hear the show, but I've been talking about the fact that I'm watching. You got Nigel over there, who's now leading in the polls for the Reform Party, and you've got other citizens. But at the same time, don't forget, we're seeing people actually getting arrested, police showing up at their house because they didn't even author a post. They shared a post. They concurred with somebody's idea. That's enough to be arrested. You've got the government and the police and this whole Henry Novak thing. It took a while for this to come out. And they were urging people to try to paint Henry Novak as the aggressor and a bad kid. Well, they were doing their own PR to narrate and flip the script on what really happened there. And you got to say, well, if it's the government itself who's incarcerating, arresting, and threatening by arrest, free speech there, and this links into the lecture that J.D. Vance when he was over there, and he said, "Hey, you guys, you gotta get more in line with Western civilization." And I've asked this question, Matt: how much can an allied, even a special ally, like England has always been, can they veer from our culture and our belief in our moral system before we don't consider them, forget a special ally, but even an ally? Because there are different types of allies. There are those that we work with out of necessity and for world peace and for the good or the greater good. Then they're the allies because we share a common moral compass and a common belief system. And it has to come down to, has England started to veer too far off course from our Western civilization?
Well, Joe, I agree with you wholeheartedly. This is something that your pal at Frontiers of Freedom, George Landreth, and I last week or 2 weeks ago, we discussed. I asked George point blank, how do you maintain a rapport with a country that no longer embraces your values, such as you're saying, being arrested for social media posts or just reposting? This is beyond the pale, Joe, but I'll be honest with you. The UK and the special relationship, I don't know where it goes, but the UK of a few years back is not the UK of now.
No.
It is out of control.
No. It is. It is. And I know that I'll get text or be accused of being racist here and so forth. But when you look at London and a lot of the major cities in England are now Muslims, elected Muslim mayors. You have to think, well, that's going to bleed into the government, and it does. And then I look here because New York elected a Muslim mayor. And he just recently at some event played Muslim music in Arabic, but if you go find the translation, it's actually advocating the elimination of infidels in other words, us, Western culture. Yes. That's being played by the mayor of the biggest city in the country at a function.
Amazing. Joe, it's amazing when I hear that and watching him months back in a debate accusing, his opponents of not reaching out to the Muslim community. And I would ask him, why didn't you, walk down the street and go to St. Patrick's and reach out to the Catholic community or other communities? But Joe, what you're saying is very disturbing at every level.
Sure. Hey, Matt, thank you for the call. We're against the clock. We got to take our first hour break here. Again, call back anytime.
All right. Thanks.
All right, Matt. Thank you. Matt from Philly, folks. Matt, are you still there?
Yes.
Tell people where they can check you out real quick.
Okay. I'm at the Matthew J. Show is Monday through Friday at 7 p.m. on Rumble and X. And also I've been guest hosting on the nationally syndicated program, Andy Hoosier Show.
There you go.
You can catch me there also.
All right. Thanks, Matt. We'll be back on the other side, folks. Stick with us.
This is WCRN, Worcester.
Fox News, I'm Angelo Bavaro. President Trump says a peace deal with Iran could be signed as soon as today.
The latest from the Iranians, however, is that it will not be signed this weekend. The spokesperson for the Iranian foreign minister told state media it could, though, happen in the coming days. According to a White House official, the terms include all of Iran's nuclear material is going to be destroyed and removed. The nuclear program is going to be dismantled. The Strait of Hormuz will be reopened again.
Fox's Aisha Hasni. The New York Knicks capturing their first NBA championship since 1973, beating the Spurs in Game 5, 94-90. Jalen Brunson was named MVP.
Every time I got the ball, all I can think about is all the hours in the summer. For every summer I had since I ever can remember making this a reality.
That sound courtesy ABC, the victory parade planned for Thursday. America is listening to Fox News.
Please be advised. You may want to stop eating the following foods immediately: broccoli, kale, bean sprouts, blueberries, quinoa, spinach.
Wait, what? I thought those were good for me.
Turns out not for everyone, because what's healthy for one person can cause inflammation for another. And the only way to really know what your body needs is to listen to it.
Listen how?
That's where Viome comes in. Viome is a simple at-home gut health test that looks at your body's real-time biology using RNA to understand what's happening inside you right now. When your results come in, you'll learn exactly which foods to eat, which to avoid, and which supplements are right for you, all based on the world's largest RNA-based human biology database and thousands of clinical research studies. And many people who use Viome report more energy, better digestion, and a better mood within months. So stop guessing. Start knowing. Learn more at Viome.com/gut. V as in Victor, IOME.com/GUT. And use coupon code GUTHEALTH50 to save $50 off your purchase. Viome. Trust.
All right, folks, welcome back here to hour 2 of the Sunday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830 WCRN. Reminding you, folks, you can join the conversation for the next couple of hours, the time we have left here together, at 508-871-7000. That's 508-871-7000, or text me, 617-297-8388. Text line is open. It appears on a screen here in the studio in real time. We try to work it into the conversation. And Russ is flying the board back at HQ. He'll get you set up and ready for chat here at 508-871-7000. We are streaming multiple platforms, and we are trying Instagram today. So if you go to the Joe Mangi Show Instagram, we've added that to the repertoire on it. So let me know how that's. I'll have to go back, I guess, and look at it. First time we tried streaming on Instagram. But you can go to Twitch TV, X, Facebook, LinkedIn profile, and of course, Rumble, the station's Facebook page. Multiple ways to watch, multiple ways to listen. And Matt brought it up a little bit about, Philadelphia's its own sports, and Boston's known for our seriousness when it comes to sports as well. But we've got this whole situation in New York breaking out last night, and yes, you heard right. They won, more than 50 years. That's great. But when celebration becomes lawlessness, so here's the question for you this morning, guys. When did winning become an excuse to destroy your own city? The Knicks win their first championship, like I said, more than 50 years. The New York fans, they're excited. Fine. Celebrate, cheer, hug strangers, chant on the streets, wear the jersey, cry if you're a lifelong fan. I get all of that. But setting a school bus on fire, ripping apart vehicles, smashing windows, climbing on buses, spray painting graffiti, turning Times Square into a scene from a failed state. Now, this isn't a celebration. This is criminal behavior wearing a sports jersey. And I have never understood this impulse. I was saying it before the break. Your team wins, so you burn your own city down? You destroy property paid for by taxpayers? You terrorize normal people trying to get home? You make police and firefighters clean up your emotional breakdown? What exactly is this thought process? What's the story, you guys? Now, after the New York Knicks won their first NBA championship, crowds flooded Times Square, midterm Manhattan. I said midterm, didn't I? Midtown Manhattan. A lot of it was normal celebration, sure. Excitement, noise, energy. Generations of Knicks fans finally getting the moment they waited a lifetime to see. Like I said, same. Until, 2014? Red Sox had never won a World Series in my lifetime. It was 1918 last time before that. So it was cool. But then the celebration turned ugly. Right? Fans swarmed school buses and shuttle buses, including buses being used around the World Cup transportation stuff. They climbed on them. They ripped off parts and they smashed windows and they tore off mirrors and grills. And then they set one on fire. Flaming clothing tossed inside while people danced and screamed around it. Think about that. Poor driver pleading with people to stop because that's his livelihood. Someone else yelling about taxpayer dollars. These are buses used for transportation, for schools, for working people, for actual public need. I don't know if that was supposed to imply if it was a private vehicle, like a high-end, it was a Tesla or a Mercedes or Cadillac. That's okay because it's obviously a rich person and it's private property. I don't know. Another discussion. But what does the mob do? They destroy it. And what do we know? We know people, generally a person anyway, is reasonable and calm and not violent. But mobs, no. Mobs is scary and violent and unreasonable. So the mob destroyed it. Also, reports of damaged police vehicles, smashed bottles, graffiti, even gunshots were heard. And police eventually moving in with riot gear and mounted officers. And this is where we have to stop pretending. This is not youthful exuberance. This is not passion. This is not fans getting carried away. This is mob behavior. And I don't care whether it is a political riot, a championship riot, a campus riot, anti-police riot, anti-ICE riot, or a bunch of drunken sports fans acting like idiots. The rules should be the same. You destroy property, you get arrested. You assault somebody, you get arrested. You set something on fire, you get arrested. You block streets and endanger the public, you get arrested. And if you are convicted, this should be real jail time. Not a stern talking to. People doing this, they know right from wrong. And not a promise to appear, not a community service thing where you pick up 3 cups of coffee cups here and in the park, call it accountability. Nah, I say 90 days in jail for riot-related destruction. That's where I'd start. Because until consequences are real, this keeps happening. And so the bigger question is whether people have a right to celebrate. That's not the question. Of course they do. The question is whether our cities still have the will to enforce the law once a crowd gets large enough. Right? We have spent years teaching people that crowds can get away with things individuals never could. See, one person burns a bus, and that's arson. A crowd burns a bus, and suddenly the media calls it unrest or chaos or celebration gone too far, or mostly peaceful protest. Nah, stop it. Words matter. It's a crime. It's disorder. It's a social breakdown. In the moment a city tolerates it, the decent people pay the price. Taxpayers pay. The bus driver pays. The business owners, they pay. Police officers pay, the firefighters pay. And you know what? The kids who needed that bus, they pay too. Meanwhile, the mob goes home and posts the videos online like it was some great achievement. It's kind of sad if you think about it. So how should the police handle it? Now, here is an uncomfortable question. How should the police handle this? What about the water canyons? Do we break out water cannons? Do we need rubber bullets or the beanbag rounds? Do we need mounted police moving crowds out faster? Or do we just need mass arrests? I tell you what we cannot do. We cannot let mobs take over public streets for hours while government stands there hoping they eventually get tired. Didn't we learn anything in the summer of love? When police stations were ordered to be evacuated so they could work out their frustration and burn it to the ground? Police should use lawful force, proportional force, and decisive force. Not revenge, not brutality, no street justice. That's not law and order either. That is lawlessness with a badge. But if someone is setting fires and destroying vehicles and threatening bystanders and attacking the police, or turning a celebration into a riot, then police should end it quickly, lawfully, and very firmly. And then prosecutors need to do their jobs. Isn't that always the case where it seems to break down? It's very demoralizing to the police as well, that they're actually out there getting hurt and putting their safety and life on the line. And then you've got the DAs who drop charges or refuse to bring them in the first place. So the prosecutors need to do their job. That is often the missing piece, right? Police can arrest all day long, but if prosecutors let everyone walk, the lesson is learned. The city is weak. And that creates a cultural problem. And that's what happens when people are raised without boundaries. We have confused freedom with permission. Freedom does not mean you get to torch a bus. Freedom does not mean you get to destroy public property. Freedom does not mean your emotions become everyone else's emergency. Civilized people can celebrate without behaving like vandals. Adults can be excited without becoming criminals. And fans can love a team without making their city look like it lost a war. So the bottom line, congratulations to the Knicks and to the real Knicks fans who celebrated like normal human beings. But shame on the people who used that victory as an excuse to burn and smash and vandalize and terrorize. A championship should bring a city together. It should not give the worst people in the crowd permission to act like their lowest instincts. So here's the rule, right? If you burn the city, you should sleep in jail. Minimum 90 days. That's a good start. Make examples early, and you stop the next riot before it starts. Because a free society cannot survive if every large crowd becomes a permission slip for chaos. Guys, this is just some common sense conversation, hopefully for the common sense citizen. What say you on this? Yeah? Celebrate the win, but don't destroy the city. Sport fandom does not excuse the crime. Arson, vandalism, assault, public endangerment should mean arrest. So I ask you, why do people destroy their own city when their team wins? Are sports riots treated too softly compared to other riots? But then again, how tough have we handled a lot of those other riots? Right? And should police move faster when crowds start setting fires? In these American cities, and often, yeah, they're blue. They're blue cities. Have they become too afraid to enforce order? So what is the difference between celebration and mob behavior? What say you? 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. That's 508-871-7000. Text line is up and running at 617-297-8388. 617-297-8388. All right. Don't forget, too, that you can tell Alexa to play WCRN, and she'll do that, no questions asked, which is a pretty cool thing to do. And like I said, today's the first day we're trying streaming to Instagram, so I don't really know how it's going because I can't see it here. So if you want to let me know, I'd appreciate that. But I got to talk about, because nobody's brought it up yet, right? California elections and the just trust us problem there. And then I don't think the story is close to over. And I know, depending how you look at it, what you believe, whether or not they did anything to Spencer Pratt or not. But if they thought he was going away, man, he has come out with some crazy ads. And apparently he has some cards up the sleeve. See, California has an election problem, right? And I know before the usual crowd starts screaming, let me be clear, I'm not saying every late counted ballot is fraudulent. I'm not saying every election worker is corrupt, and I'm not saying every close race was stolen. No, that's not the point. That's not the point. But only Republicans seem to be able to be called election deniers when, Hillary Clinton, 10 years later is still calling Trump illegitimate president. The point is this: the election system should not require blind faith from the voters. It should have control strong enough to prove integrity in the first place. California mails ballots to every active registered voter. Who's on that list? That's a whole nother discussion, right? Then it accepts mail ballots after Election Day, as long as they are postmarked by Election Day and received within the legal window. Then the counting drags on for days, sometimes weeks, and that, of course, as we see, it results in a shift. And the leads change, and candidates go from behind in some cases, like in Rahman's case, very far behind. So far behind, she did her concession speech. And voters ask questions, and the answer from officials is always the same, right? Hey, don't worry, this is normal. Maybe that's the problem. Maybe it should not be normal. Election day should mean election day. And I believe that. Election, no, not a week. Not election season. Not keep checking back while the numbers move around. If you want to vote absentee, fine. But then it should be on you, the voter, to request the ballot, fill it out correctly, and make sure it's received by Election Day. And if you can't do that, then you didn't vote. It's that simple. It's that simple. If you know you're not going to be in town, or even if you know it's probably going to be almost impossible to get to the polling place on that day, it's a work day and the kids got soccer and I've got this and that, you can reach out to the clerk weeks in advance and say, I need an absentee. And there's a procedure for that. And we used to use that. And you know what the drop box is? It's called the United States Post Office box. You mail it back or drop it off to City Hall. Stop mass mailing ballots to people who did not ask for them. That's common sense. Stop accepting ballots after Election Day. No, that's Election Day. If you can't vote on Election Day or get your ballot, absentee ballot, in by Election Day, then you just didn't vote, and that's all on you. Stop pretending speed and security are the enemies here. They're not. We can count money quickly. We can process credit cards instantly. We can track a package across the country in real time. But somehow in California, counting ballots, it takes days and days. And if you question it, suddenly you're the problem. No. The process is the problem, guys. And this is where the Wall Street Journal style audit control analogy is pretty good. I mentioned it somewhere last week. It was in the WSJ. And Jerry and I talked about this off air last week at some point. In financial reporting, we don't accept, well, you cannot prove fraud. That's not the standard for guys like Jerry or financial planners and things. The standard is whether the controls are strong enough to prove the numbers are reliable. So there is no doubt and you don't question them. A public company cannot just say, hey, trust us, the books are fine. I'm sure they'd love that. No, they need controls. And I've done financial talk radio for many years. And all of these places have compliance officers, full-time people whose job is just to be sure that all the procedures are in compliance with the law. And most of these financial shows, by the way, the scripts and the topics have to be submitted before the air date to be approved. So they need controls, documentation, chain of custody, independent review, verification, audit trail, separation of duties, reconciliation, all required. Why should elections, something far more important than a corporate balance sheet, be held to a lower standard, I ask you? Votes are anonymous by design once the ballot is separated from the voter. That means the control has to happen before the ballot goes into the count. Perfect sense, right? Was the voter eligible? Number one. Was the voter a citizen? Kind of falls under the eligible. Was the voter properly registered? Was the ballot issued correctly? Was the ballot returned properly? And don't forget, the signature. Was it verified? And was the voter prevented from voting twice? And it happened with people here at the station whose grown children have been out of the house for years, some of them in other states. Yet ballots are being mailed to their childhood home, and they haven't lived there in a decade or close to 2 decades. I know a lot of people, and I'm sure everyone listening to me, if you start asking around your friends, if it didn't happen in your household, ask around, it probably happened to somebody you know. Was the ballot secured from the moment it was received to the moment it was counted? These aren't conspiracy questions, guys. They're not. They really aren't. If your system cannot answer them clearly, quickly, and publicly, then don't be surprised when voters lose trust. So we do need voter ID. That's not even a question. We need citizenship has to be verified when you register. I got somebody getting on me a couple of weeks ago about verifying citizen, not at the polling place. Listen, to register, I think you should have to prove that you're a citizen, you're eligible to vote in a United States federal election, period. And then we need to have clean voter rolls, which means, yes, we have to clean them up. We have to purge them. They have to be reviewed because we see this. We purge a list. We find thousands of people who really shouldn't, they're not eligible to vote. They don't live there anymore, or they just don't live anymore. They're not alive. And we remove them, but then post-election, when you can't really do anything about it because they're all mixed in there, right? It's like peeing in the pool. So you can't do anything about it, but thousands of people who were removed 6 weeks or months before the election, they're back on the voter rolls before election day. So we need to clean the voter rolls, and we need a real chain of custody. A real chain of custody, just like this was evidence. And we need meaningful observers, and they need to have meaningful access. Remember the pizza boxes being taped over the windows and the observers being forced outside of the building? Pretty hard for me to observe what's going on your desk if I'm outside of the building and you put pizza boxes taped to the window. And we need ballots received by election day. Again, that's up to you. If you want to vote and you want your vote to be counted, do what it takes to get your vote in by election day. And that's why I do not agree or believe in this motor voter stuff or somebody else or system registering someone to vote who had no interest in registering themselves. They couldn't take the time or the energy or the effort or the bother to register themselves to vote. Guess what they're not going to do as well? They're not going to go vote. So you've just put one in the chamber there. And we need final results that do not feel like a slow motion magic trick, sleight of hand. California officials say the process is careful. Fine, then prove it with the controls. If the voter rolls are clean, prove it. And if those ballots are legitimate, prove it. If the signatures are verified, all together, guys, prove it. If the process is secure, prove it. Do not pat Americans on the head and say, hey, trust us. No, trust is earned. California does not have an election trust problem because voters ask questions, guys. No. California has an election trust problem because the system looks designed to create doubt. So what's my observation on this? Hey, the burden should be on the citizens to prove the system failed. It should not be there. That's not their role. The burden should be on the government to prove the system worked. So California's June 2nd primary count, it's still in the canvass period. And then they've got this thing they cure them, right? So if they have a little question about it, they're allowed to go track these people down, or sometimes the election officials get to interpret what the voter meant. Think about that for a moment. They get to interpret what they think the voter meant if it's ineligible or it's not quite perfect ballot. So the issue is whether the system has enough controls to prove integrity. That's what has to happen there. That's what has to go on here. So what say you? Should ballots have to be received by election day? What say you? Should every voter be mailed a ballot automatically? I say no. Should absentee ballots require a voter request? Absolutely. And should voter ID be required? That's a real big one. And there's a Save America Act that isn't making it, right? It hasn't hit it, hasn't passed. And should citizens be verified that they're citizens at the time of registration? I say yes, they have to be. This in same-day voter registration, no way. Because we have to take a break here in the second hour. Elaine from Framingham, hold through the break. We'll go right to the phones on the other side of the break, and we'll take Elaine from Framingham, who's waiting patiently. But what say you on this election process and the things I've outlined here? And we're all watching California, and the state attorney there has opened up an investigation. And I think based on what Spencer Pratt is saying now, he's saying, hey, I have nothing to lose. I'm going to let everything out. I don't care if I offend anyone on CNN now. They might have created a monster. I'm Joe Mangiacotti. Be back on the other side. Stick with us.
Don't put mercury in the trash. Don't put mercury in the trash. Fluorescent lamps. Thermometers. Thermostats. These could all contain mercury, so let's dispose of them properly. Don't put mercury in the trash. Don't put mercury in the trash. Know your products with mercury, so you can dispose of them properly. Mercury is harmful to human health and the environment. To learn what products in your home may contain mercury and where to safely dispose of them, please contact your local Board of Health or Department of Public Works or visit keepmercuryfromrising.org. Know your products with mercury so you can dispose of them properly.
Visit keepmercuryfromrising.org because together we can keep our environment safe. Brought to you by Win Waste Innovations. Performance for the planet.
WCRN, where the left and the right meet in the middle. Whether you lean left, lean right, or just want to stay informed, WCRN has you covered with diverse voices, lively debates, and thought-provoking discussions. You'll hear it all right here. Radio Central.
This summer, celebrate the 4th of July at Fuller Park like never before. It's America's 250th birthday, and we're having a July Family Fest. Family fun, then watch Field of Dreams, followed by a grand display of spectacular Unibank fireworks. Tickets are on sale now at fullerpark.com/familyfest. Happy 250th, America.
Paul Harvey captivated us with his unique blend of wit, curiosity, and that unforgettable sign-off. WCRN Radio is proud to reintroduce Paul Harvey and the rest of the story. Weekday mornings at 9, only on WCRN.
All right, folks, welcome back to the second half of the second hour of the Sunday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show here on AM 830 WCRN. Hey, don't forget, you can join the conversation at 508-871-7000. Lines are open and available. Russ is behind the glass, flying the board at HQ, as I am broadcasting from the Cameo studio, so that does mean the Cameo Cam is on, and you can watch us on the station's Facebook page, my Facebook page, X account, Twitch TV, LinkedIn profile, and Rumble channel as well. Many ways to watch, many ways to listen. 508-871-7000. And Elaine in Framingham has been waiting patiently. Hey, Elaine, thanks for holding through the break. Good morning.
Hey,
See
Joe.
you.
Hey, good morning. How are you?
I'm well, thanks.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I do. Loud and clear.
Okay. I'm on an earbud. I wasn't sure.
Better than the speakerphone, Elaine.
Okay. I'm driving home from Florida with the baby again.
Nice.
I listen, but it's just been harder on Sundays with the baby, but the call. But anyways, this whole vote thing in California, I've been listening to it and following it, and it seems like they've created laws to make it legal to vote. So, didn't Newsom sign something a month ago? Like, if anybody questions the vote or something, that's against the law. And then they said to prove that there's fraud, they need whistleblowers to come forward. You may have 100 votes here or a person over here. They have it set up so it's really hard to prove. even though it's right in front of our faces. It's like so blatant and so obvious. You know, they count until they win.
Well,
You know, it's what happened
Elaine,
in 2020 in Pennsylvania.
Elaine, I don't know if you know. I don't know if you get to listen every time I'm on now because that was only the Wednesday morning and Sunday morning. But and I brought this up, and if you go to everyone, if you've gone, if you follow me on Facebook X or you go to my site, I'll do these what I call TOFIs, right? Today's observation for you. And one of the things that I just didn't get to play, I thought it should have got, is Gavin Newsom was doing some local state presser somewhere, and somebody asked the question about, between Pratt looking really good in the mayor's race, and of course Steve Hilton doing really one on the gubernatorial race, and he shoots back with this comment about, then we're watching that, but if Republicans are doing too well, we'll break the glass. We got plans for that, and no follow-up question. Nobody in that room, no one reporter worth his salt said, excuse me, Governor, what does break the glass mean? Is that ballot harvesting? Is that ballot stuffing? What exactly does break the glass mean? And listen to yourself. If Republicans are doing well in the electorate, we'll break the glass. We got a way to, we won't let that happen. Oh my God, that is straight out talking about election interference. And nobody questions a comment like that?
Yeah. No, that's what I'm saying. They just let it go. Like, it's so crooked what's going on, like, because the media doesn't push back. You need these independent people, the ones who are exposing things.
Right, and they want to create a law which they commonly refer to as the Nick Shirley law. That's not its official name, but that's what it's become to known as, that pretty much makes it illegal for anybody but mainstream media to exercise their First Amendment right, which is crazy in itself. And the other thing, Elaine, is because all those reporters sitting there, when they heard him say, oh, don't worry, we've got a contingency plan, we'll break the glass, they're actually thinking, oh, great, they have a plan to stop Republicans from winning. That's what the media was thinking.
Yeah, they're happy. They're like, okay. And can you imagine if there was ever the popular vote in this country?
Like, oh God! And that's what look. The Democrats told us, Elaine, right? If they get in power again, there goes the filibuster, which means Puerto Rico and DC become a state, which the founding fathers totally against the whole idea. George and I have discussed that on the weekly report several times. And then they're going to get rid of the Electoral College and go to the popular vote, which is not what we are. We're not a democracy. I know we hear that, but we're not. We're elected republic. And the Electoral College works. And people forget that there was 13 years between the signing of the Independence Declaration of Independence and George Washington being elected president. And we had failed attempts in those 13 years, Elaine. And that's where we realized, okay, and that's where the whole idea that, California and little bitty Rhode Island both have 2 senators for a reason. And that population will dictate the rest, because we didn't really know what we were doing for a few years. And what we came up with, and when we had our first presidential election and George Washington won, it was based on, a few years of trial and error. And there's a reason we do it the way we do it.
Yeah, and the Electoral College, because like other voices wouldn't be heard. If the popular vote, it's only going to be California or New York, and make the decisions for the country. And those people last night in New York, and that's insane. Like, all those people have nothing better to do. Like, it was every borough, all the streets, like, and all these people, and they behave like animals, and like, they all have nothing to do. I don't get it.
Are you talking about last night after the Knicks one?
Yeah.
Yeah, I really do not understand that, guys. I'm just not that type of person that would, I guess, do that. It doesn't even occur to me, it's a good idea. Let me go, I don't know, smash some windows, loot a store, set something on fire. That's not very sportsmanlike to me.
No, and that's the population. Like like those people vote, right? In California,
Scarily, they do.
Scarily they do. So we went to the popular vote. Can you imagine? Like that's what I mean. New York and California. What about shiny example? Who's the voters at?
Look at Mandami. I mean, 2 million people in New York didn't vote. 2 million people stayed home. And that's why he is at 34 or whatever, and a Muslim, the mayor of our biggest city in the financial mecca of although that's shifting, right? I mean, that is shifting. And the thing is, because one of the things I think, right, Elaine, that came out of the pandemic is the whole concept of remote working or being able to work anywhere. I mean, the guy who runs the largest hedge fund, right? He has a mansion in the mountain up here in Vermont. He doesn't even live in New York anymore. And then you've got Griffin there, who's doubling down with not only him moving to Florida, but moving his investments and monies out of New York. And then you've got Hochul, who remember just 3 years ago, maybe it's 4 now, but it was, I don't know if it was 22 or 23, where she, lectured us or lectured New Yorkers with hey, you don't like what we're doing here and how we use your money, then leave. Who needs you? You're not real New Yorkers. Now she's begging them to either come back. Well, you don't have to come back. We don't need to have your, middle of the road, moderate, never mind conservative body here. Just write me a check and be patriotically write me a check.
And now they're all crying because they're leaving, which is kind of funny. And that one in Seattle did the same thing, and now she's kind of backtracking about it. She said the same thing, but then she was trying to,
Mm-hmm. The one where they just, did you see this? And I don't have it in front of me, so I got to go by memory here, but they released the mini tiny homes. They're basically.
Oh, yeah. That's for the drug addicts to go and live in them.
Well, the unhoused, and that's the other thing. Right, when we're told we can't say homeless anymore, they tell us you got to say unhoused, just like they try to tell you can't say illegal alien, even though that's the actual term in the statute, by the way, folks. But I say to you, freedom of speech not only means you can say what you want, short of threatening someone or firing a theater, but it means you can't be forced to say things you don't want to say. And just because an activist group of people decide that they don't like it, that they're going to PR something, right? They're gonna give it a better image, so they're gonna force you to use this. You don't have to. You can still say homeless. You don't have to say unhoused, and you're supposed to say illegal alien, not dreamer, because that's the actual legal term. But for people who don't know what we're talking about, the mayor there in Portland revealed they're little rooms. What are they, like 10 by 10 or something? And they have a little bed and a little desk and a closet. And I think it has they have a shower and a toilet, I believe.
No, the separate place for the toilet and the shower.
Right, they have a communal shower and toilet.
Yeah, but they do have a little care package there for toothbrush, toothpaste, little thing like that. But it's sort of like being in a grave, it's like a box.
It is. It's a shed.
You're generous by saying, I'll give it 6 by 8. I don't think it's a 10 by 10.
Right. Was that Portland or Seattle?
Yeah. I think it was Seattle. I don't know, it's like 50 of them. But it's just going to be a drug den. Well, it's going to be.
Yeah, well, see, the problem with this, guys, and what say you in this? What happens, I think, is you didn't solve the problem, right? Because they constantly have it wrong when it comes to homelessness. Because despite how the left wants us to believe that these are just all of these people are people who came on hard times and through a series of misfortunate things, they ended up, and that might be 1/2 of 1%. I don't know. But majority of the people who are homeless are suffering from either mental illness or an addiction. And when you are addicted to something, and I'm talking to people who are addicted, whether they're full-blown alcoholics, crackheads, heroin users, whatever the addiction is, go talk to them, because you're talking to the addiction, not the person. And that's who's controlling it, right? It's the invasion of the body snatchers. So they're not themselves. They're not the people that the family knew at one point who have common sense and ability to make good decisions, evidenced by the fact that they're homeless and addicted to a drug. So you're not solving the problem by giving them this tiny little thing to go to bed in. They kind of already have that, and they have no interest in not being homeless, because we are such a compassionate country that we have food banks and shelters, and we give meals and all kinds of things, right? I mean, even to the point where I think it's gone too far, Elaine, and we give them needles.
They give them the drugs.
Yeah.
They give them the drugs. They give them the alcohol.
And now they're telling us that we have to buy them new teeth because the meth has ruined their teeth. So here's the thing. You haven't solved the problem. You're just repackaging it and reshaping it. And each one of those little tiny boxes that you're giving them to live in is going to be 2 or 3 people in there, and they're going to destroy it because all that they're focused on is getting high. So I don't think the answer is to take people with serious addictions and group them into a small area with people with other serious addictions, because then it just becomes a matter of where do we score the best and everybody share their stuff. And it's going to be crime and sexual assaults and all kinds of stuff happening there.
And I can agree with it if they were putting them in this situation, and then they had like so they're more like, let's say blocked in, but they're screened for drugs in and out, that it has to be a clean site, that there's support.
And maybe they got to be in a program, and there's nothing for them to pay. And I'm not talking about money, folks, but in this situation, for you to get this tiny home, maybe you need to be in a drug rehab program. Maybe you need to say, well, I'll stay clean and sober, because if they're not clean, it's irrelevant. It's not going to change anything for them.
The company that's making the money are the people that put those little homes there. Whose contract did that come from? It all relates back to so many billions of dollars poured into it, but it's a racket, because someone, I bet you she knows, or maybe she does, owns those buildings, those little things. And when they get damaged, they're going to get replaced, and the state's going to pay for it. So it's not, it's a racket. No, it's billions and billions and billions of dollars. They can put them out like this, put them all in a rehab center. They have to be clean. And then you could give them a tiny home, and within that tiny home, teach them how to work again, and grow a garden, and teach them some survival. Teach them something.
I would be in support of this home if there were those conditions, Elaine, and I mean that you have to be clean and sober to live here. And if you don't have a job to go to, then you have to spend some of the day doing interviews, sending out resumes, and lacking of that, and there are plenty of people in the business community who would volunteer to teach people how to interview properly, right? What to expect on an interview. Again, we have programs out there, and we are a very compassionate and generous world here in the United States, especially. And I've done it in the past where things have come up and they said, will you help out with, I have both given money and suits and things of that nature for people who are getting on their feet. And some of these suits, they cost me $1,200, $1,500, $2,000. It's not, $99 man's warehouse special. So people will give if they think it's actually going to do something. But if you just say, here's the house, well, and there's nothing, you have no investment in it.
Yeah.
It's
to
not
see it
much
in a month.
difference than them pitching their tent under the overpass.
Yeah, and I'd like to see those places in a month. I bet they're all
Well,
destroyed.
they're not going to let a lot of cameras in there at that time, but
No.
we'll see. We'll keep an eye on it. And any final thought, Elaine?
Well, no, happy birthday to President Trump.
Happy birthday to Trump.
And I mean, I hope this Iran deal is real. I don't trust them.
Oh, it's
I don't.
real, but it's irrelevant because Iran has no intention of honoring anything in it, and
Right.
they're
So
just
how-
absolutely buying time. They're trying to get to the midterms to hope that Trump gets way down with impeachments and investigations, and then he's out in a couple years. Nothing is going to solve the Iranian problem except a regime change. Period. Period.
When he started bombing them again, I wish he didn't stop.
Yeah.
I really wish he didn't stop.
I agree. And you know what? Take the gloves off. Let Israel be Israel and eliminate the threat. Because as long as the IRGC and the mullahs are running the country, it's a rogue nation who has been at war with us for almost 50 years.
The goal is to kill everybody except you either convert to be a Muslim or you're dead.
Or you got to pay the tax, right? That's the other thing. It's meant to humiliate non-Muslims. Is you pay a tax for the privilege of not being a Muslim if you don't want to be a Muslim. This is from their own Quran, from their own prophet, from their own religion, from their own beliefs. It's not. This is how. Just go listen to them. Go listen to what they say because these imams, they're talking about it.
That's why I agree with you. And that's why I wish he did. Once he went back, he waited too long before he started to bomb again, and then he did it, and then he called it off again because they said, "Oh, please stop," and he does. So he makes so many right decisions. So I don't know why
He's getting. I'm sorry. I like the guy's policies, but he's getting played. Mr. President, if you happen to be listening, doubt you are, you're getting played. Yeah. This is going to, if this doesn't result in the regime change and he goes forward with this stupidity right now, this will be, if not the worst mistake of his administration, one of the worst of his administration. He's committing it right now.
I agree.
All right. Thank you, Elaine.
All right. Thanks, Joe.
All right. All right. Yes, you too. Thank you so much. All right, folks. 508-871-7000. Lines open and available. Jump on. What say you? I threw several things out here for you to talk about. We can bring something else up that you want. At the top of the hour, we'll take one more break or two more breaks, and we'll get into the hour 3. But let's jump to the phones before we do that. Tom in Lunenburg. Hey, Tom, what say you?
Yeah, it's beautiful. I'm sitting here right near Lake Whalum. Oh, beautiful.
Oh, my God, Lake Whalum. Remember Whalum Park?
You remember Whalum Park?
I do.
I used to go there as a kid all the time. We'd go.
There was a big whale, right? Wasn't there something whale you could get in and play in it or something, if I remember?
No, they had a rickety old roller coaster.
Yeah.
Remember, it was an old wooden one, and that thing would shake, and it felt like the whole thing was going to come down on you.
And I'm sure some people remember Paragon Park in, I think it was Nantasket.
Yeah, too. But we used to love Rocky Point.
I don't remember going to Rocky Point.
When they had the seafood dinners, the clam fritters. Oh,
yeah.
I got that I Googled it, and all that land when they knocked down, nothing on it.
Really?
They never built nothing on it. It's like
I wonder who owns it.
Weed. Huh?
I wonder who owns it. Yeah.
I have
Rocky
no
Point
idea.
in Rhode Island. Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah. Huge. They used to have what was it? They had an in-ground swimming pool on the right edge again. Then they had a big dining hall. You'd have clam fritters. You have the chowder. Oh, was that?
I remember Rocky Point as existing, but that wasn't one of the places we went to as a family when I was a kid. We did go to Paragon Park because we had family that lived right on the beach or right on the near the water there. We'd go visit them, and it was an uncle, and he had a boxing ring in his yard, like a legit boxing ring. And this was the Italian side, Tom. So they'd sit in the yard with the homemade vino and all that. And somebody would take us kids down the street to Paragon Park, and they had to talk about a big rickety old wooden roller coaster. They had one there. Yeah. I'm not a roller coaster guy, and I'm actually, and my friends don't get this. I'm not a heights guy. I'm afraid of heights, but they said, but geez, you're a pilot, you fly, you're up that. There's a big difference between flying an airplane, even if it's a small single engine and you're the pilot in command. That's one thing. Being on the top, 200 feet up on rickety wooden thing, or the other one that I didn't like, and I would force myself. Have you ever done, Route 2 and gone out to Nath Adams? You got the hairpin turn, and there's a fire watch tower that you can pull over like an observation, and you're allowed to, or you used to be, I don't know if you still are, it's been years. I drive through there when I go to Vermont, but I don't stop anymore. But you used to be able to climb that tower watch, the fire watch thing, but you're on the edge of the cliff. That petrified me. I refused to do, I did it because of the peer pressure when you're in high school and all that. But if I have, and I have a friend of mine who wants to skydive, hasn't done it, and he keeps telling me he wants to skydive. Let me tell you something. Pilots don't jump out of perfectly good airplanes if we can help it. No way. I mean, the plane would have to be on fire before I would consider doing that. I'm just not, Miss Riverside Park in Agawam. Yeah, they became Six Flags.
I think I was there. Remember the name? What's the one north of Boston? Remember, it was right on the ocean.
Well, Salisbury,
right
Rockingham.
Rockingham. Was it Rockingham Park?
Well, Rockingham had a racetrack. I used to do their commercials
that's the racetrack
years ago.
I think that was Selkies, wasn't it? Rockingham. Hey, no, but they had an amusement park with a roller coaster right on the beach north of Boston. And they knocked it down because I Googled it up and I forgot the name of the damn thing. We used to go there. I remember.
Somebody would know. You can text me 617-297-8388.
They have no more of these water parks, all gone. Everything is gone, We had a blast. You remember
go ahead.
You remember the log run? It used to be like an artificial log, and they go like a roller coaster, and they go into the water, and you smash down.
Yeah, I think doesn't Six Flags have that log ride? Because we used to. The log goes in and splashes in, and you get if you're in the front.
Yeah, the plume. Yeah, that's what it was. The plume. Yeah. Hey, you know what I was calling today? They were talking about addicts and all this other stuff, alcoholics and drug addicts. Simple solution. We got a lot of military bases we closed up. A lot of them. You take one of these military bases far from any cities, towns, and you lock it down. These things are big. When you're talking maybe 100,000 acres, 200,000, you've got everything on them. You have the barracks, the hospitals, you get everything. You put all these addicts on there in a big program. You get the barracks. You put them, they can't get no drugs because there's no cars coming in and out.
But also, Tom, also because the other part of this conversation that I touched on a little bit with Elaine was if the people who are addicted, that's the disease and the issue you got to deal with. But the other part of it is a lot of people who are homeless actually have mental illness. And we got rid of the institutions 40 years ago under the Reagan administration. And a lot of people who should be hospitalized or should be in a facility because they aren't capable of taking care of themselves and making the right decisions. Maybe we need to bring that back. And the one thing that used to be consistent with those places, Tom, where they were out in the country, you don't put in the middle of the city with loud noises and bright lights and all kinds of people. So maybe a decommissioned or shut down military base would be idyllic place for a relaxing center, a mental health facility, right?
You want to think of something stupid? The one on Chandler Street, that health something, community health, that was there for decades. And you know how dumb they were, the ones that were administrating that program? I had some girlfriends that went there. They'd have a program. They go in there for like 30 days, come out, right? So they'd go out the back door, take a left down the hill to Chandler Street. They had a fieldstone wall right beside of the big brick building where, right beside of their program. They would sit on these this wall, the drug dealers. They're drug dealers. You'd have 2, 3 drug dealers wait for the addicts coming out, then re-up them. Hey,
Yeah.
I got 3 dope.
There's a lot of loopholes and a lot of problems there. Tom, against the clock, we got a break for the news. Thank you for the call. Thank you for listening, folks. We're going to come back with our third final hour after the top of the hour break here. 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. 508-871-7000. Lines are open and available. Stick with us. Back on the other side.
This is WCRN, Worcester.
Fox News, I'm Paul Stevens. President Trump says a deal with Iran set to be signed maybe today. Iran's foreign minister is saying, though, the likelihood of finalizing a plan is also high.
Iranian state media released their own details, emphasizing U.S. commitments to lift sanctions, withdraw its forces, and release frozen Iranian funds.
And that's Fox's Max Gordon in Dubai. Congress has still not renewed an intelligence law allowing the feds to conduct warrantless wiretaps on some foreign nationals.
Legal authority for the government's foremost intelligence gathering weapon to foil terrorism, FISA Section 702, expires. There's worry about unprecedented vulnerabilities this summer.
And that's Fox's Chad Pergram. For the first time in over 50 years, the New York Knicks are NBA champions, defeating the San Antonio Spurs last night. Big parade coming up. America's listening to Fox News.
Please be advised. You may want to stop eating the following foods immediately: broccoli, kale, bean sprouts, blueberries, quinoa, spinach.
Wait, what? I thought those were good for me.
Turns out not for everyone, because what's healthy for one person can cause inflammation for another. And the only way to really know what your body needs is to listen to it.
Listen how?
That's where Viome comes in. Viome is a simple at-home gut health test that looks at your body's real-time biology using RNA to understand what's happening inside you right now. When your results come in, you'll learn exactly which foods to eat, which to avoid, and which supplements are right for you, all based on the world's largest RNA-based human biology database and thousands of clinical research studies. And many people who use Viome report more energy, better digestion, and a better mood within months. So stop guessing. Start knowing. Learn more at viome.com/gut. V as in Victor, IOME.com/GUT. And use coupon code GUTHEALTH50 to save $50 off your purchase. Viome.
All right, folks, welcome back here to the third and final hour of the Sunday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show here on AM 830 WCRN Radio Central. And remind you folks that the Joe Mangiacotti Show is sponsored in part by Heart to Home Meals this hour. And Heart to Home Meals, delicious, ready-to-heat meals for seniors delivered with no subscription and free delivery. That's right. They deliver it free. You pay what you pay. And most of this, a lot of this is covered by insurance. And it's not just for seniors. As I say this, as I'm coming into what one would arguably say is my senior year for me, but I've used it because the convenience is fantastic. They have this massive selection. We'll hear more about that, but the Joe Mangiacotti Show is sponsored in part by Heart to Home Meals. So delicious, ready-to-heat meals for seniors delivered free with no subscriptions required. Check them out. So lines open and available, 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. And don't forget, our text line is running at 617-297-8388. All right, I do want to get into... you may have missed this, but we all saw this Carmelo Anthony, that case, Texas, stabbed him in the chest. And then you had Jasmine Crockett on a podcast trying to downplay the size of the blade. What killed me with that podcast clip of her, is 6 people there, and she's allegedly an attorney, and it's as if she didn't read anything, not even the first paragraph of any story on this. And she had no idea what the facts of the case were at all. But let me run something by you here, because and this should really make taxpayers and every person who believes in equal justice under the law a little furious about this. So we see this 19-year-old now, Carmelo Anthony. He was convicted, all right, of the murder of the 17-year-old Austin Metcalf, stabbed him in the heart, and this was all at a high school track meet in Frisco, Texas. The jury rejected the self-defense claim. They sent him away for 35 years. Now, I'm not relitigating the story. He had a jury. Yes, of course, you got the race baiters who are going to say, well, the black jury members got dismissed. Well, they got dismissed because they were educators, not because they were black. Just stop it, will you? Now, maybe you have an argument if somebody who was left on the jury, who was white, is also an educator and they didn't get it. Yes, you have a case, but that's not the case. And it wasn't all white. There were Latinos and Asians. The jury's fine. He had a jury of his peers. He claimed self-defense. But here's the thing, especially in Texas. You cannot provoke a confrontation and then use self-defense as a defense when you caused the entire thing in the first place. But a day after the conviction, this is the part that I want to talk to you about. The day after the conviction, Anthony's family had him fill out the paperwork claiming that he's penniless, destitute, and indigent. That he was too broke to hire a lawyer for his appeal. They want the taxpayers to pay for his appellate attorney. And we've talked about this. I've actually gotten into this because most of you listening know I'm over 4 decades as a private investigator. I own a private detective agency started by my father and mother and family. It's a second generation. And one of the things that we do is what's called CPCS, and that's the Committee on Public Counsel. So when in every state has its own state branch or state department that administers the whole part of the Miranda. If you can't afford a lawyer, one shall be appointed to you at free of charge. And I've talked about this in the past because if you are, and how you get that is you've got to, under pains and penalty of perjury, tell the court, and you fill out financials, and you say, I don't have the money to hire a private attorney. So the good people of Massachusetts, in our case, will pay for your attorney. But if you are deemed indigent and you don't have the money to pay for attorney, you get all the other stuff too, which means you get a guy like me that the taxpayers pay for. You get private investigators and blood experts and fingerprint experts, and everything you need for your defense is on the taxpayer's dime. Now, the attorneys here in Massachusetts last year, because I covered this on my show, wanted an increase in their hourly because there hadn't been one in a long time. And they had recently just raised it for guys like me, private investigators. Our rates went up. Now, they are higher in other states, but here's the caveat there. A lot of other states like New Hampshire and Maine in New England, they don't give the taxpayer defense as easily as we do in Massachusetts. In other words, the bar is very low here, very low in Massachusetts. Other states, they do actually examine your financials. And I've seen cases where a young female who's claiming she can't afford an attorney is sitting in front of the judge with literally tens of thousands of dollars of jewelry on her. Watches, diamonds, I mean, even designer clothing and a $6,000 bag, and saying, I can't afford an attorney. And I've seen them aggravate the judge with their attitude, and the judge goes, wait a minute, come back here. So yeah, Massachusetts, very easy to get public defense paid for. So the family says, hey, all right, fill out this paperwork. And it says you're penniless, destitute, indigent, too broke to hire the lawyer. Taxpayer's going to do it. So here's the part that should really make the blood boil here. Now, the family ran a Give, Send, Go fundraiser. That's like the GoFundMe. It's a different company. And they raised over 600 grand. From every report and article I can find, it's more like $625,000. And right after that money came in, again, according to all the reports and news articles and investigator reporters, the family, they moved. They were citing threats and for security purposes. So they move into a gated community in a $900,000 home. And again, based on a couple of different articles, they picked themselves up a $150,000 car. Now, I know what you're saying. Back in the day, that might have been a Bentley or Rolls. $150,000 car, unfortunately, is a very nice car, but it's not uncommon these days. So $900,000 home, $150,000 car. This is a lifestyle that his family was not living prior to the Give, Send, Go money. So they raised hundreds of thousands of dollars from donors. They seem to have upgraded their lifestyle and then turn around and tell the court, we're broke. Please make the taxpayers pay for the killer's appeal. This is exactly why Americans, we've lost faith in the system. And as a detective, I'd say, first of all, I'm not retrying the murder case. That's done. And there's a process, an appellate, do it. But the jury already spoke on that. But this post-conviction money shuffle, it's a masterclass in working the system. Raise money from sympathetic donors. As I said, we're an extremely understanding, generous country. And we believe in fairness and second chances. But they raise this money from those sympathetic donors. They live well, then cry poverty. So the rest of us foot the bill for what could be endless appeals. And this isn't justice, it's gaming the system, totally gaming the system. Well, the victim's family, grieving, they're watching this. So the question is, where did all the GoFundMe, or actually it was Go Save, Give, Send, Go. I don't know. I don't think it was the GoFundMe. Where did the money they raised, where did it go? Should convicted murderers who raise hundreds of thousands of dollars get free lawyers on the public dime? And when does personal responsibility kick in here? What do you think? Because if you spent it on these things, then show it. Show the work. They said they had to get security. Okay. Let's see the security invoices. How much security? Who provided it? What's the company? Are they legit? Are they licensed? Are they bonded? Are they insured? Do you have to, at this time, moving to a gated community? I understand that addresses some security issues. Is that what the people who donated that money thought it was going to be used for? Or did people who donated the money to the Go Send Me thing think this was paying the legal bill? Or was it for the family to get a cool whip? I say you have to show in the court. This is up to the judge. The judge, the court, they need to ask the question. Where did the money? Where did the $625,000? Let me see the balance sheet. Show me an accounting of that money. And the court should be able to say, yeah, you spent it on that car, but I don't know how a $150,000 car has anything to do with his defense or even your security. And just like the IRS auditor would say, we're going to disallow that. So that $150,000, that has to be considered an asset the family has or that Carmelo has towards his defense, does it not? So this isn't justice, guys. And that's not what people were thinking on that. And this is why ordinary Americans lose faith in the justice system. He's convicted of the stabbing death of a 17-year-old, Austin Metcalf, at a track meet. They tried the case. He was in a tent he shouldn't have belonged in. He was asked, I think, 6 minutes of teammates or that team's members asking him to leave. He had a knife in his pack. He fishes it out. He stabs him in the chest. A shove does not equal a stab in the heart. Heart. It just doesn't. And America, you know, even if you're convicted of a terrible, terrible crime, it doesn't mean your constitutional rights go away. It's how our system works. Due process matters, even when the facts are ugly, and they were ugly in this case. Anthony filed that paperwork, and he puts in black and white, penniless, destitute, and indigent. That's the terminology. And based on that terminology, says, I need a court-appointed attorney for my appeal. And that translation is, taxpayers, you're going to fit that bill. You're going to foot that bill. That's going to be your obligation. So wait a minute. You raise $600,000 through online fundraising. And before taxpayers are told to fund the next round of legal work, the court should ask those questions, I said, right? Where'd the money go? If it went to lawyers, show us. If it went to security, show us. If it went to relocation, show us. If it went to rent, travel, consultants, public relations, which I would argue shouldn't be counted towards it, or living expenses, again, are those living expenses incurred because of the trial? I mean, we all have living expenses. Fine, then show us that. Because you cannot raise hundreds of thousands of dollars from the public and then walk into court claiming you're broke without expecting some kind or a level of scrutiny. And then this $900,000 rented home in the vehicle. The optics are terrible. But the bigger issue, if people donated money believing they were helping with the legal defense, then why is there suddenly no money for the appeal? That is the legal defense. And if the money was spent elsewhere, shouldn't the court know? They should know that before declaring him indigent and handing that bill over to the taxpayers. And this is not denying due process by any means at all. This is about public trust. Now, Austin's dead. His family will never see him graduate or marry or build a career or have children or live the life that was stolen from him. And Carmelo Anthony, he had his trial. He had his defense. The jury heard the evidence. Jury convicted him. And he wants that appeal. And that is right. That's the way it works. But taxpayer-funded appeal after $600,000 fundraiser with no full accounting? Nah, here's the rule I would go by. If a criminal defendant or a family raises major money online for legal defense, the money should be disclosed to the court before taxpayers are asked to fund anything. Every dollar should be accounted for. Because the American people are generous. We're very generous. But we're not stupid. And we're tired of being played. So what say you on this? What should the court do? Should they disallow some of this stuff? Texter, did you hear 3 people urinated on the grave of Austin Medcap? No, I didn't, and that's sad to hear that. No, Texter. Did not hear that. I can't say I'm incredibly surprised that some kind of depravity at that level exists. So, but that's a shame. That's a big shame. Look, that was a tough case, and apparently, and I didn't see them, and I don't know if they're online, but the jury, the pictures were tough for them to see, and I'm sure that played a lot into it as well. But again, this isn't about the trial. This isn't about the verdict. And it's not even about the appeal for the appeal's reasoning and sake. It's about the fact that this kid or this family seems to feel comfortable enough to raise over 600 grand and then turn around and say, you know, we're broke. Now, do they think that there'd be no accounting of where all that money is? No questions asked whatsoever? I have no idea. I'm saying that there needs to be. And again, I'm a guy who has dealt with the CPCS here in Massachusetts. I'm a guy who has charged you, the taxpayers of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, thousands upon thousands of dollars. I mean, probably hundreds of thousands or more over the years, because I do defense work for lawyers who have public defenders. So I know a little something about that particular industry, and I know for a fact I've seen it. I've seen people who I know are not destitute, who aren't indigent, who are not penniless, get public defenders and then get $5,000 or $10,000 bill from me. I've seen it in the court on a regular basis. But folks, I want to remind you of one of our great new partners here at the WCRN family, and that is Heart to Homes. And this is a really smart service for seniors or for any family, really, that wants a peace of mind about mealtime. Heart to Home Meals offers a big menu, over 150 chef-prepared, ready-to-eat frozen meals designed mostly with seniors in mind, but they're designed with people who work long hours and don't want to cook every night, because you order what you want and when you want. And I've used the service, and they've delivered them to my home. And here's what I love about the way they do business. See, there's no subscription, and there's no minimum order, and there's certainly no hidden fees. You keep the meals in your freezer, heat them up in minutes when you're ready to eat. And again, the delivery, always free, brought right to your door by the local drivers. And the boss over there, Gary, I've had him, I think, on Handle and Change, and I've talked to him about this, and they try to keep the drivers assigned to the same route and the same people so that you get to know who your driver is, and the driver, more importantly, gets to know who you are. And they'll even give, especially the elderly clients, a hand in rotating the food in the freezer, making sure that they're, getting to the older food up front, putting the newer food in the back so it doesn't stay in there for months on end. So if you want to make mealtime easier, whether it's for you or your parents or what have you, or you're looking for a thoughtful way to help that parent or loved one, take a look at Heart to Home Meals. And we're very glad to have them supporting the 11 o'clock hour right here on AM 830 WCRN. 508-871-7000. Lines are open and available. 508-871-7000. Join the conversation. And I want to switch to something, unless you guys want to bring up another subject or drill down on something I've talked about. But we're seeing a lot of talk about disclosure, right? So we're going to go, it's time to put on the tinfoil hat or whatever you want to say. But are we ready for disclosure, right? Spielberg has this new movie coming out, Disclosure Day. And interestingly enough, one of the things Trump did at the end of the first term is he signed that executive order about letting out information the government's been sitting on UFOs and stuff. And they did, remember, when this happened, right? There was the public hearing for Congress, and then they went into the closed door hearing, and there was a movie made way back, seems like way back when Marco Rubio was just Senator Rubio, because he's in it. And he sat on, I forget the committee he was on. Maybe it was an intelligence committee, but he's in this disclosure movie, not the one Spielberg's got coming out, a whole different thing, more of a documentary. But there's some strong verified information about UAPs is now, right? They've been replacing UFO with the UAP, and that they become legitimate public policy topic. In NASA's 2023 independent UAP report, it said there's no conclusive evidence in peer-reviewed literature showing an extraterrestrial origin for UAP, but also stressed the need for better data. So are we ready for the disclosure? Let's have a little fun with this today. It's also a very serious conversation. Every now and then, a topic bubbles up from the fringe and suddenly, lands right here in the middle. It ends up in front of Congress, the Pentagon, NASA, cable news, podcasts, even Hollywood. UFOs, UAPs, alien disclosure, whatever label you want to put on it. And we saw the footage that the Navy had and the pilots. And now this kind of new attitude it seems like it's given Navy aviators, Air Force pilots, even commercial pilots, a little more confidence or freedom to talk about things that they've seen that they can't explain. And let me be clear up front. I'm not asking you to believe every viral quote or TikTok video, blurry light in the sky, or even a guy on the internet who says his cousin's neighbor worked at Area 51, which Area 51 hasn't been of significance for decades. Wright-Patterson in Ohio, that's another story. But I'm asking this, why does the subject keep coming back? And Spielberg is saying some pretty interesting things, right? That when you go see his movie, I don't know if it's out today or not. It's already out, but Disclosure Day. I mean, he's saying if once you see this movie, it's going to, you're going to question your religion. But why does this subject keep coming back? And these subjects get so much attention and views, whether you're talking about, what's that guy, AJ, with the Heckle Fish Kid? He does a lot of UFO stuff. And why are members of Congress talking about it? Why are members of Congress talking about it? Well, one, Trump's executive order, but two, they're getting briefings that we don't get. And why has the Pentagon created formal offices to study unidentified anomalous phenomenon? That's the UAP. Why did NASA convene an independent study team, right? And if you paid any attention to this over the years, right, you know about Project Blue Book and Majestic 12. Quick text, heard your request earlier, just got in from a bike ride. Streaming on Instagram is working perfectly. Oh, awesome. First day we got to that. Thank you very much. It's Mark in Connecticut. Glad to hear that. Okay, so you can now watch the show on Instagram. It's a new thing. But why did NASA convene these independent study teams? Why do pilots, military personnel, intelligent people, and lawmakers, as well as intelligent people, keep saying there is something here worth looking at? And now we have this Spielberg film, right? Disclosure Day. Putting this subject back into the mainstream imagination again. right? Viral claims. So there's a quote circulating. It's attributed to Paul Hertz. Now, I don't know if you know that name, but any one of you that might have done what I've done, you go down the UFO hole late at night online or something. He's a former NASA astrophysicist. He's official saying that something along the lines of be careful what you wish for. If you knew even a fraction of what we do, you would never sleep again. That is a chilling quote, if true. I'll continue on this, but we're going to take the mid-hour break here on the third hour of the Sunday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830 WCRN, now streaming to Instagram at Joe Mangi Show. So you can add to Twitch TV, LinkedIn profile, Facebook, X, Rumble. We can add now Instagram. I guess I did figure out how to do that the right way. Hey, stick with us. We'll be back with the final half-hour segment on the Sunday edition. Take care.
Boston, are you ready for a show that's unique and different? Blind and Beyond Radio Show is the only commercial radio show in the world for the visually impaired and the blind community. We are the bridge between the blind community and the sighted community. This show is sponsored by Carroll Center for the Blind in Newton, Mass. Fun, informative, educational, with trivia prizes every Sunday night. Blind and Beyond Radio Show every Sunday night, 7 to 9 p.m. on WCRN 830 a.m.
Folks, life is too short to drink bad coffee. If you love coffee the way I do, then you need to try Gatan Farms coffee. That is premium Guatemalan coffee, grown in fertile volcanic soil, the mountains of Guatemala, the kind of environment that produces deep, rich, smooth flavor. Serious coffee drinkers appreciate. Visit GatanFarms.com, or even easier for WCRN listeners, go to bestcupofjoe.com. That's bestcupofjoe.com. Gatan Farms coffee, from the volcanic highlands of Guatemala to your cup. Taste the difference.
Looking for a station that brings you all sides of the story? Tune in to 50,000 watt powerhouse WCRN, where the left and the right meet in the middle. Whether you lean left, lean right, or just want to stay informed, WCRN has you covered with diverse voices, lively debates, and thought-provoking discussions. From politics and health to pop culture, you'll hear it all right here. Radio Central, where opinions from both sides come together for the conversations that matter. From the center of the dial, the center of New England, and the center of information, AM 830, WCRN, Radio Central.
Learn how you can make your retirement exactly what you want it to be. Join attorney Jeff Monfett for Retirement Security every Monday and Friday afternoon at 2. Set the stage for a worry-free retirement with Retirement Security right here on Full Service Radio, AM 830 WCRN.
All right, folks, welcome back here to the sixth and final segment, right, on the 3 hours, 9 to noon on Sundays. The Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830 WCRN, reminding you that this show is sponsored in part by Heart to Home Meals, delicious, ready-to-eat meals for seniors, delivered free with no subscription required. All right, so folks, come on. Where are my UFOologists out there? I know this isn't a typical topic, but with Disclosure Day, Spielberg's latest movie coming out, and I did look it up. So Disclosure Day is a 2026 American science fiction thriller film directed and produced by Steven Spielberg, right? He brought us E.T. From a screenplay by David Cope, based on a story by Spielberg. It has all stars, right? We've got Emily Blunt, Josh O'Connor, Colin Firth, Eve Hosson, Colin Domingo. In April of 24, it was reported that Spielberg's next project would be a UFO film. And Universal Pictures announced that it would, as the distributor, good cast. As the world stands poised on the brink of World War III, cybersecurity specialist Daniel Kellner steals a piece of extraterrestrial technology in related files detailing various events of human-alien contact dating back to the Roswell incident from the Wardex Corporation, a secret arm of the U.S. government. Wardex CEO Noah Scanlon discovers the theft and has Daniel branded as a foreign spy, making him the target of federal authorities. Kind of sounds like that Will Smith movie mixed in there, that kind of thing. Anyway, Daniel goes into hiding at the convent with his girlfriend. In Kansas City, television meteorologist Margaret Fairchild is preparing for work. So you get the gist of the movie. But they say in this look, again, I'm going to draw in a lot of the stuff that you see on there. And I love at 508-871-7000. Because my question has always been, do you think that we're it, that we are the epitome of intelligent life in the universe? And yes, I mean, there could be life. They might be biped like us. They could be carbon-based. They could not be carbon-based. And they may never get outside of their planet's atmosphere, right? And not have the technology. But if other races were to reach the planet, would logic not dictate that their technology is just millions, if not billions, of years ahead of us? Especially if you start getting into the interdimensional beings and all of that kind of stuff, right? So do you believe? Do you believe that there's life outside of our solar system or even in our solar system? I don't care. Do you believe that this life has reached us? Right? I mean, Star Trek is huge, right? Franchise. And if you think about it, so much of what we saw in 1966 Star Trek, right? Handheld communicators, flip phones, tablets and PCs, talking computers, right? What's the difference between them saying on Star Trek, computer, calculate this, than it is saying, hey, Google, Alexa, or Siri? Pretty much the same thing, right? So do you believe in that? Then the 1954 alleged treaty or meeting, right? Eisenhower, toothache, no record of it, disappears for hours, nobody can explain it, all that jazz. What say you? What about the stuff? Dr. Greer. Now, Dr. Greer is all over the internet. This guy, he's a medical doctor. As a matter of fact, he was an emergency room physician. His credentials, he's a smart guy. He's a legitimate guy. And he's stopped being an ER doctor. And he's gotten into this world. And he talks about Skunk Works and Raytheon and all these companies, and that we have reversed engineered a lot of this stuff, that we have recovered crashed ships, and not because we shut them down or anything, because of their issues. But now, according to Dr. Greer, they can be taken down with EMP, with electromagnetic pulses, screws up their navigation. And he says a lot of these things, like 8 out of 10 things that we see now, are actually our own stuff that we have reversed engineered and we've built on our own, that can be confused with real alien technology. I'm just fascinated. What do you guys say? Yes, no? Believe in this? But I have not seen clean official sources for anything, right? Everything is like, I mean, we walk around with 32 megapixel lenses, sometimes better than that on our iPhones and our Droids. And we still don't have a clear picture of Bigfoot, right? So there's always something wrong with that. So I'm not going to sit here and tell you that NASA officially said this thing about the movie. But the larger question, even if that quote, and it's not verified, this isn't going away. This topic is not going away. Tom Burchett, right? Congressman Burchett, he's spoken openly about classified briefings and his concerns over what the government knows. So is Rubio. And Congressman Anna Luna, right? She's discussed the possibility of interdimensional beings. She has pushed for more declassification. And NASA has said there is not conclusive scientific evidence providing extraterrestrial origin, but also says we need better data. Of course, we need better data all the time. The Pentagon says it has not found evidence of extraterrestrial technology, but it still has unresolved cases. Some of the most famous UFO or alien encounter cases come from New England or here in Massachusetts, right? The couple going home, I think it was New Hampshire, right? And then the one out on the bridge in western Massachusetts. So what are we dealing with? Often, and look, I know that often it's attributed to foreign adversary technology or secret American technology. Yeah, and you got the misidentified balloons and drones and aircraft, satellites, atmospheric effects, swamp gas, mass psychology, or something else, right? But it's not going away. And you got to ask, well, what is this? What's really happening? Because people have experienced things, people have seen things. So what does it mean? But here's the thing. Whether it is an enemy to the United States or an adversary to the United States, and more concerningly, if it's not, but they can move in and out of these vehicles, move in and out of our airspace, either undetected or detected and then disappear instantly, or they have flight paths that certainly can't be human occupied because our frail bodies wouldn't be able to withstand a 90-degree turn at the speeds that these things do it on radar. It would just pop us, right? So whatever it is, it's a national security issue at best, or worst, I should say. So this is what I want from you, the caller. Do you believe we're alone? Do you believe the government knows more than it is telling us? I believe that on everything, right? I think the government always knows more than they're telling us. I don't care what the topic is. But what say you? I say to you, do you believe we are alone? Do you believe the government knows more than it is telling us? If full disclosure happened tomorrow, real, undeniable, no going back disclosure, would the country handle it? Could religion handle it? What about world markets? Could the markets handle it? Would the government tell us the truth, or would they slow walk it because they think we can't handle it? Has this leaking and discussions in movies, have they been prepping us for a disclosure day? And here is the big one. If there is intelligent life somewhere else, should we be trying to contact it, or should we be very quiet? Remember Voyager 1 and 2, right? I mean, they have gone billions upon billions of miles, and I think Voyager 2 recently left our solar system. Was it a smart idea? I think it was Hawkins, right? Is he the one who said, don't hold me this to text me if you know this, answer a call? I think he said the one, we shouldn't be telling them where we are because we sent that disc out, right? With different languages, music, numbers, because math would be a universal language, and showing that we're the third planet or third rock from the sun type of thing. Should we be telling a very distant, intelligent race where we are and that we have gotten to this point? Maybe they want to come investigate, and they might not be all that interested in peace. Because look, if they do reach us, if there is all this and they reach us, we better hope they're benevolent, right? because nothing we have could defend us. So maybe the question is whether we're ready for them to find us. 508-871-7000. 508-871-7000. What do you say? Do you believe UAPs are real objects or mostly misidentified conventional phenomenon? And do you trust the government to tell us if it had proof of non-human intelligence? And would the disclosure of this strengthen or weaken religious faith? And if this is foreign technology or secret U.S. technology or something, who truly knows? Should humanity be broadcasting into space, or should we just mind our own business? If aliens are real, does it not change anything about politics, faith, war, or human purpose? Does it change anything? What say you? 508-871-7000. Wow, text is quiet, phones are quiet. Does it freak you out? Or what? I mean, I don't know. I don't know what to tell you.
How you doing otherwise, Joe?
Yeah, I know. All right, Russ, where do you come down on this? Do you think we're alone in the universe? And I'm not saying, so 2 questions. Is there other intelligent life out there? And then the second part is, have they made it to Earth?
Good questions. I seriously haven't really thought about it, to tell you the truth.
Well, my feeling is that there probably is. I can't believe that this, even though we're billions of years, the Earth is billions of years old, and life, we've existed for hundreds of thousands of years or what have you. I believe that there's life forms in other universe or other solar systems, other galaxies in the universe. Doesn't necessarily mean they had the technology to get here. After all, even if you take the sci-fi, right, like in Star Trek, where they're traveling at warp factors, and it's not, warp factor 1 is the speed of light. And the only way that they create the speed of light is by creating a warp bubble around the ship. And it's not so much it travels through space as space travels around it, and the bubble protects it, because if you were traveling even at a fraction of the speed of light, a grain of sand or something, a piece of rock in space would tear through the spaceship like, a knife through tissue paper, right? So the warp bubble, everything goes around it. It's in this bubble, and it can travel the speed of light and not be affected. Even in Star Trek, they call it impulse power. We can't travel at even half the speed of light or a tenth the speed of light without having serious things happen to our bodies in that ship. But warp factor 2 isn't twice the speed, right? As you get up in the warps, it actually is a multiple of speed of light. So when you're like at warp factor 5, that's like 1,500 times the speed of light. And so even if you had that technology, which now theoretically it's been proven it can exist, we just don't have the ability. It requires us an incredible amount of power to create a warp bubble.
Now, can you imagine someone like William Shatner being in his 90s, trying to picture him playing Captain Kirk, obviously, today? That should be a sight in itself, I would think.
Well, I wouldn't be surprised if William Shatner was pitched a thing where he's, Kirk at 100 years old or something, because he's 93, isn't he? I think he's in his 90s. And didn't he go up in Blue Moon? Was it Blue Moon or the blue one? Who was it? Bezos? I don't know, guys. Text or call. I know he went technically into space for a few seconds or a minute or whatever it was on Blue Horizon or whatever it was a couple of years ago. Which is all cool, But a lot of things that we see in Star Trek, actually, we have today, technology-wise. And we've got versions of the replicator, right? We've got 3D printers that can print almost anything, including food, by the way. I mean, many years ago, I did a story about the fact that Kentucky Fried Chicken in France were 3D printing chicken nuggets. They would put these protein packed tubes in there, and they would print you out in a 3D printer. So technology, we've jumped so much from 1966 Star Trek. And if you listen to Dr. Greer, anything you saw in Star Trek, we already have today. That's him. That's not me. I'm just relaying this. 508-8717. Sure. Matt in Philly. Matt, you want to jump back on? What's up, man? Is it you talk about UFOs?
Joe, I talk about that's a mainstay on my show. I've actually been studying the topic for over 40 years. I did see Disclosure Day Friday. Was a little disappointed. People that are not familiar with the topic, they may enjoy the movie, but as far as it digging deeper and finding the role of so-called third-party contractors that allegedly the U.S. government uses for the downed aircraft to reverse engineer, it didn't really go too far. Spielberg really didn't go too far into that, so I was disappointed. But, Joe, I'm very surprised that your lines weren't lit up. This is a very important subject. It's a very important subject.
I can be honest with you, too, Matt. I thought I would be, I thought a lot of people, because it's one of those things that nobody just brings out of the blue, but I thought if I brought it up today with this movie coming out and everything, that people would have something to say, because I have my feelings. Laura, I don't know where you are, right? Because we've never talked about this, Matt, right? So
yes, but listen,
I believe that there is other intelligent life out there. I absolutely believe. I think it's so arrogant for us to think we are it for the universe. It just, no, we can't be it. So I think there is, and I think that somewhere in somebody else's timeline, they've been able to achieve what we would call warp speed. And I'm sure they can do faster than light travel. Again, these could be civilizations that have 50 billion years on us, Matt. How do we know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Joe, listen, you did hit the nail on the head. I listened to your discussion. It is a national security matter.
Yeah.
In fact, my bigger concerns are that we've got a hold of a lot of alien tech that we've reverse engineered, such as, say, for example, free energy and maybe some things along the line of medical advancements that have not been brought into the benefit of humanity. That this small group, allegedly these private contractors, where these whistleblowers that are in front of congressional hearings are stating that we are in possession of this technology, which could help humanity, and we're not distributing it throughout our country or the world. I believe it's a very real thing, Joe. I know just a few years ago, he laughed out of the room, but I do believe this connection and the visit, like you're saying, advanced civilizations, of course they're out there.
Of course, yeah, I agree. It would be, now, have they got here? I actually believe they've actually gotten here too. I do believe that. I think if you look at, just look at some of the ancient drawings and things, you're like, well, wait a minute, what the hell is that in the sky? Like, I mean, you never noticed that? But all that aside, when it gets to the things like the 0 point energy, look, Tesla was on that route. And what they did to Tesla is the same reason. I mean, look, when Getty pulled the plug on Wardenclyffe Tower, it's because he asked where the meter goes, and Tesla said, there's no meter. I can transmit power. He thought he was investing in radio. Yeah. But Nikola Tesla actually realized he could transmit power, electricity through the air. And he was showing that with Wardenclyffe Tower. Getty pulled his money, and they blackballed it because you had people like Morgan, Standard Oil, and they weren't about, and neither are they going to do that today. Could you imagine if we were to release 0 point energy or, out of the ethos, and that made all fossil fuel obsolete overnight, where not just the house is off the grid, but say every air conditioner or refrigerator or stove would have its own little power, pulling it out of the atmosphere, which is in essence what zero point energy is. You could build a property, you could build a building anywhere on the planet, and you could build a biodome in the middle of the desert, and it could be air conditioned or heated, and you could get atmosphere water generators there. You see what I'm saying? It would just change life as we know it. And are people, are the powers to be going to let that happen?
No, they're not. For that reason, the free energy reason, and an issue that Spielberg kind of tries to discuss, the effect it would have on world religions disclosure. But my bigger question to your audience, Joe, is why now is the Pentagon releasing these UAP videos, some of the documents, the still images? Why are they doing it now as opposed when they really knew a lot about it too in the 50s and 60s? Why did they wait till 2024, 25, 26, have these congressional hearings and say, gee whiz, I think the American public is, they're probably ready for some type of disclosure, maybe even a soft disclosure. But I honestly thought, Joe, if I can get this in, that the release of the Spielberg movie Disclosure Day and these Pentagon releases, which started back on May 8th, I think they're kind of tied. That they were the government, and yet we know Hollywood, Joe, and the military intelligence service, they've been working hand in hand since the 50s. So I actually thought this was a concerted effort to let the American public know this is coming down the pike. You're going to be finding out more about disclosure. And you mentioned Tim Burchett, Congressman Tim Burchett. He says what he's seen in SCIF and classified briefings would make most American people not be able to sleep at night.
Yeah.
So what exactly are we looking at, Joe?
Well, where's your take on the 1954 secret meeting at the base with Eisenhower? He supposedly had the emergency dentist appointment and all that.
Yeah, I'm on the fence with that.
Yeah,
I think there's probably other things that have occurred over the last few decades that I would probably focus on. I mean, that's an interesting thing, and I have to actually look into that much more. But I think there's enough evidence. If you do your due diligence, you're going to know this is a real issue. And I don't know whether the government is coming out now to use it, let's say, like with the release of, the bioweapons.
But you have a soft close, right? They're having a soft disclosure, getting us mentally prepared for this. Because look at when Trump signed that at the end of term one, and then, within, I think it was 180 days or something, right? They had to do the congressional briefing and then the closed door briefing. I thought back at that. I look back at that even when it was happening, Matt, and I'm thinking they're kind of saying aliens exist and nobody seems to care. Notice that?
Yes.
Like it wasn't a big thing. Like it wasn't breaking news on Fox or CNN. It was kind of like, oh yeah, look at these UFOs, traveling at hundreds of thousands of miles an hour and turns a right turn. It's right on the radar display of an F-16.
Joe, let me ask you this question real quick. In terms of disclosure, do you think President Trump is going to be the disclosure president? With his communication skills next level, will he be the guy to do this?
See, I think so. And I think he's getting us ready. I think he's dying to tell us the things the government knows, don't you? I mean, Trump says things I think he's not supposed to say a lot, by the way. I think when he was talking about the ballroom and everything, and he kind of slipped out that it goes 6 stories underneath. I don't know if that was supposed to be said publicly. So there are a lot of times I think that he's dying to say more than he's allowed to. And I think he kind of slips sometimes.
So he may be the disclosure president. Of course, I get a lot of feedback saying that this is just a diversion by the U.S. government, by the Trump administration to go, go sideways on the Epstein situation, or even potentially this Iran conflict that's going on. It's a serious subject, and I hope he puts some focus on it.
Well, I do think it's a very serious. I think there's something there. I just, I do go back to if they are here and they have come from, think of how far advanced they are from us. And that if they wanted to do anything, they could do it. And that if they haven't, it's because they just find us more interesting, or they have whatever their version. Again, I hate to keep referring to this, but in Star Trek, they got the Prime Directive. It used to be the General Order 1, right? Don't interfere with the civilization as it's finding itself till it gets to warp drive capability type of thing, because they're not ready for it. Well, I think the moment they detected, and outside of our planet, when we started dropping or testing nuclear weapons, that actually would radiate through the solar system and would be detectable. I think that might have drawn attention to ourselves. I don't know where you sit on that, but I think that was all of a sudden any alien race said, wait a minute, what's this little place doing over here? Oh, look at this. You know, they've advanced to this point. We should watch them. You know, maybe they're there to help us not blow ourselves up. Wouldn't that be a nice thought?
Yeah, Joe, your views are pretty consistent with Dr. Greer's, and I like Dr. Greer's views, but it sounds almost identical. And Dr. Greer really breaks this down, this whole, alien, the visitor phenomenon and whatnot. But let's hope that the government's looking out for our best interest and they're not making any side deals with any civilizations that want to do us ill harm.
Yeah, because that's not going to be good for you or I. All right, Matt, thank you so much for the call. Thank you for the call back. I'm surprised that more people didn't jump in on this. It's not a typical topic I do, but I thought I'd broach it. Thank you, Matt. Take care. All right, folks, this hour was brought to you by Heart to Home Meals. And again, click Heart to Home Meals. Thank you for sponsoring the Joe Mangiacotti Show. 150 chef-prepared options, easy to heat, easy to enjoy, deliver free. Enjoy the rest of your day, folks. Joe out.
This is Radio Central, 830 WCRN, Worcester.